All right, everybody, here we are. We are live, and with me, as always, is Mahadin and Khali. And today, what we are discussing is we're going to review one of the really fun debates that happened between Ben Shapiro and Alex O'Connor. And so, Ben Shapiro is Jew by faith, and Alex O'Connor represents probably more of a young atheist community in a sense, pretty much. So this is going to be a really fun debate. But before we start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose, two questions to our viewers, whoever listens to this stream, and those two questions are basically. Let me just pull those questions up. And the question that you're going to have to, anybody who listens to it has to respond to it in the comments section as to what do you think about those is, what is a concrete definition of religion? And why are we asking these questions? Because these are going to be a kind of a theme in this review, basically. So what is a concrete definition of religion? And is humanism is a religion? And why? And the second question that you can answer one or both if you like. And the second question is, a comforting lie better than an uncomfortable truth, and why? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kali and Madin. Madin, how are you guys doing? Kali, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing, Charlie? How are you doing, Philo?
Good, good.
I'm not doing as well as I can, but yeah.
Right. So Kali has a sore throat, and so he'll be probably coughing a lot in between talking. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All
I'll
right.
make sure that I mute my mic. Hopefully,
No, no
I'll
worries,
do
no
that in
worries.
time.
We'll have some sort of music in between.
Yeah.
We put we put that elevator music on when Kylie talks.
Right, right. All right. So let's get to the video here. And this is a pretty. I listened to the debate, at 1.5x or whatever, and this seemed like a really good debate. And I said, okay, let's just go through it. So it might happen that we'll have to spend a few, streams on reviewing the whole of it, because it's pretty interesting. So, and pretty nicely done by both the parties. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the. All right, can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
And I'm gonna.
Yes, I can.
Shall we run it on normal speed or just increase the? I think
Let's
it's
have it
since
at
it's a, yeah. I think.
1.5.
Hmm?
If it's understandable, then keep it at 1.5.
Let's see. I think it's at 1.5. It's gonna be a little too, because Ben speaks a little
Oh yeah,
faster, I
you're
think.
right.
Yeah.
Ben is a very fast speaker.
Right. So I think 1.25 we try first, and then let's see how it does from there, right? All right, Madin, you good?
I'm good.
All right, let's start it.
Pretty much universally, social science suggests that
I think
many. So hopefully we get a theist delusion. Ben, could you sort of concisely, if you can?
so. This is the starting point, all right, of the conversation or the debate rather. So I
All right.
fast forwarded.
By the way, I'm not seeing anything on the screen.
I can see
Oh,
the screen. I can
You
see
can
the
see-
screen.
I'm not seeing anything on the screen for some reason.
all right. So why can you just drop out and come back, maybe?
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. 1 minute. I'll come back in about 2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, sure. No problem. All right. So yeah, this is a topic that's been debated forever, since the dawn of humanity, you can say, right? Uh, uh, it's become more and more. You hear about it a little bit more, probably, because we have more ways of communicating and all those things, and that's probably why. But I'm pretty sure 3,000 years back, when people sat down, you know, outside, or 4,000 years back, outside the pyramids of Giza, people are still, talking about these same arguments, right? So the question hasn't gotten old, pretty much, but there are no answers to be had.
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
right. I mean, we still have the same question, same essential question, because I think it's because it's something that we humans are so innately linked with or attached with, since we have been a part of since religion has been a part of human society for very long, and for in almost every society. Therefore, we are not able to detach ourselves that easily, and I think that's why we've been able to have an objective view probably on this question.
right. And yeah, it's an age-old question. Mahadan, can you see the screen now?
I can't see the video for some reason. The video's not there. That's very strange. Do you
Yeah,
want
never
to?
happened.
Do you want to take it off?
Can
Okay, what I'll do is
you play it? Try to play it and say, let's see if Madan can hear it.
Talk
I
about
can
what you
hear
mean by
it.
the
I can hear it. I can't see
Okay,
it.
so I should start off by saying I don't actually think that it's possible to prove the existence of God. I'm also
Madan,
Okay.
are you logging in? Are you logging in using Chrome?
No, on Firefox.
All right.
It's
So,
the usual thing that I do. So
all right. What I do is I'll remove the screen and then bring the screen back again. Let's see if that solves the problem, right? So right now you are not seeing anything on the screen, right? You're seeing all three of us on the whole screen, right?
yes.
Can you see it now?
Probably this is the right time for that elevator music you mentioned earlier.
No, I can't see it. I can't see it.
Can't see it still. Okay,
Yeah.
let's try something else.
Can you, Kylie, whilst you're doing this, can you see if it's viewable for everybody else, our onlookers, or is it on YouTube?
All right, yeah,
Yeah,
guys,
let me.
can you guys tell whoever is listening in the comment section that you're seeing the video
Can you
screen?
try to play it, Philo, once again?
so not to believe that you can disprove the existence of God. I don't think that logical argumentation is going to get you there one way or another. And so I'm not going to try and do that with Alex today, because I think that if people would have been able to provide dispositive proofs, then people would believe them.
Yes, I
and
can
if people
hear
were
it.
able to
I
provide
can,
dispositive proofs that
it's-
God does not exist, then people would be.
Well, it's visible and
It's
I
visible
can hear
and you
it.
can hear it, right? Anybody in the comment section, can you tell us if you can hear the video that's being reviewed is visible and audible? Just give a thumbs up, yes, yay, or nay, right? Martin still can't see it, right?
No, I can't see it for some reason. Very strange.
Surprising.
Should we restart the stream?
Hmm?
I'm not sure. I mean, we have. It's been 8.5 minutes and we haven't started. Should we restart it? It's a bad way to start the video.
Then this stream will be done, right? We can't restart it. We'll have to.
What I can do is try to come on Chrome, but I recall there was issues with my audio.
Did you completely log out, got out, and then came back?
Yeah, I did, exactly. Yes, I did.
Can you try to restart your phone and then device?
Yeah, that's I can do that. Do you want me to do that?
I think we can try that, because otherwise, yeah.
Okay. Give me what? Let me do one thing first. Let me go on Chrome and see if that quickly works.
Right, but we know that the Chrome's voice quality is really, really bad.
I'll tell you what. For now, I can deal with the sound. I don't need to see them. So if the sound is all we need, right? So you guys play it, and I'll just use the sound, because at the end, what am I going to do by looking at Shapiro's face? That's the only problem. The only problem is there that I won't be able to critique their reactions. So it'll be like the radio for me.
That's an essential part of critiquing, right?
No, I think
So,
that will let's focus on their arguments then.
Yeah,
all
let's
right,
just focus on
all
the
right,
argument. It's fine. Yeah,
all right. Let's go then. All right.
let's go for it.
More apt to believe those as well. Leave them with God. I don't actually think that
Can this idea of the atheist delusion. Ben, could you sort of concisely, if you can, talk about what you mean by the atheist delusion?
Sure. So I should start off by saying I don't actually think that it's possible to prove the existence of God. I'm also not a believer that you can disprove the existence of God. I don't think that logical argumentation is going to get you there one way or another. And so I'm not going to try and do that with Alex today, because I think that if people would have been able to provide dispositive proofs, then people would believe them. And if people were able to provide dispositive proofs that God does not exist, then people would be more apt to believe those as well. What I think is an atheist delusion is that it is possible to live ideologically purely in a way that does not.
Madan, you need to. You're getting a huge feedback from you.
Not rely on fundamental faith principles. When I say faith principles, I'm not going to make the claim that those faith principles are direct from Sinai, or that those faith principles require the New Testament, for example. I'm going to make the claim that there are a bunch of principles upon which we base ourselves that are external to what we know about nature and evolutionary biology, and that many of the things that Alex does in his daily life, for example, are going to be things that rely on principles that are external to a philosophy that would assume a lack of the supernatural, a lack of the extra natural. So some of those principles, for example, are free will. So every day we get up, we believe, virtually all of us, whether we say we believe it or not, we actually act in ways that betray the idea that we believe that we have control over our own actions, at least to a certain extent, and that control makes a difference in the world. And that's what gives us purpose. It's what allows us to wake up in the morning and make the decision to do what we believe is right or what we believe is wrong. And the principles of right and wrong are external to evolutionary biology. So both of these principles that I've mentioned already, free will, right and wrong, these come from a language that is external to the Darwinian language of evolutionary biology. If you're talking about free will, there's nothing in nature that suggests the ability to make a decision free of environment and genetics in combination in some sort. The same thing is true of right and wrong. The idea that there is a right and there is a moral wrong that we can reason our way to. Another principle that I think that you're obviously very big on, and something that you rely on all the time, your entire podcast is based on the idea of reason. These ideas do not exist in the context of a purely materialist atheist universe. Now, I'm not going to make the claim that I can prove that it's God who's behind those things, because one of the principles of faith belief is that I don't understand God. So for people who don't believe in God, that's an easy way out, right? That's an easy way out for people like me, because I say, well, I don't have to explain the relationship between God and free will, because frankly, I don't fully understand God. But that's not really that's not really an open window. That's just part of pretty much all faith systems, is that if my mind were the mind of God, then I would either be God or God would not exist, one of the two things. So the idea that reason makes a difference in our lives, that we can reason our way to propositions, and that's more than just saying a few magic words and that's setting off a few neurons in somebody else's brain in a naturalistic way, that there actually is principles of truth, another concept that comes from the extra natural world, that these principles exist. So far I've mentioned free will, good, right and wrong, reason, and truth, right? All things that we consider extremely key in our daily lives, and that Alex considers key in what he does. It's, I assume, why you get up every morning, or at least why you feel you get up every morning. You know, what gets you up to do your podcast? It's because you want to say things that you believe are reasonable, are going to convince people to act in a better way, or I assume not a worse way, that get people to change their lives in some way, in a self-motivated fashion. That's not merely in a sort of Pavlovian response to circumstance and environment. So if I were going to talk about the atheist delusion, that's what I would suggest is the delusion, that an atheist can use terminology that is drawn from a world that is external to atheism for itself. And again, that's not an argument for God even. That's just an argument against atheism. Again, I think the arguments against God are fairly compelling, and I think the arguments against atheism are fairly compelling. This is one of the things that I've said to Sam Harris. And I think that the difference is that most people who believe in God have expressed doubts, and a lot of people who are atheists tend to be more religious in this way than many of the people who are God believers.
Well, something's...
All right. So I think one thing that Ben has already considered here is that you can't. I mean, he doesn't have any positive argument for the existence of God, so that goes out of the window. The main argument that he has is that Alex does some of the things that still require something outside his worldview, basically, in a sense, right? So, and one example that he gives is that of morality, basically, right?
If the question of this debate, though, is religion, let me get that right, is it religion useful, or is it, is that correct? Are religions, Philo,
is religion good for society? Is religion good for society?
Exactly.
So the moral question is still valuable there, right? In a sense that you can say that why a society should be a certain way in a moral sense. Basically, what kind of moral values you require out of a society, or you would want others to behave in a certain way. So I think that's a fair question by Ben, I think, right?
I mean, but the aspect that he has raised, or the actual point that he's raising, I don't think that directly relates to the topic. At least
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
because
see that connection right now.
yeah, exactly.
I can't
That's
see
what
that connection.
before you finish, kindly. I was going to say that I was just waiting for Philo to quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead,
you
go
can
ahead.
expand on that. I was just, expressing
No, no,
my
it's all right.
thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that he has to concern the topic of the debate, unless that isn't strictly a debate topic, right? That's just a generic debate topic, and the discussion is open ended. But if it's concerning the subject of the debate, he has to demonstrate, positively speaking, why religion is still good, useful, practical, necessary, moral for society, right? And if he's already openly conceded that some religions, because he says you can't prove the existence of God, and he may extend that to say you can't prove the existence of the supernatural, right? Then by virtue of that concession, he also is making the concession that religion cannot be proven to be useful for those other things. Because if he's saying that you can't prove God or a supernatural force, and those other things, free will, morality, reason, logic, I can't remember what all of them were, something like that. They all require a supernatural force, but you can't prove a supernatural force. And certain religions believe in these supernatural forces, including deities. Then it's now muddied the waters a little bit, right? His obligation is to demonstrate that it's still good for society because it gives justification for those things, and intellectual justification, and therefore practical justification or moral justification. But if he can't, just for example, justify free will through religion, then religion, just like atheism, as he's conceded, is also incapable of supporting free will, and therefore, how is it good? You see that? Unless he's trying to say that even if even if it can't be proven, these things, even if you can't support it on atheism nor theism, right? Those things are still good because they attempt to reconcile free will with religion. So I'm not sure exactly where he's going with that, but it would have been easier or better for him if he tried to actually provide justification from religion to support those things that he thinks atheism lacks, because that way would be a good way of showing that it's good. But if
Right.
religion can't do it, what can?
I
Yeah.
agree with you. I see your point. All I'm saying, he's probably building his case in a reverse sense, probably, right? Let's give it to him, right? In a sense, he's saying, okay,
Martin, we're getting a feedback from your side.
right. So he's saying that, okay, morality is something that is we require for, a good society. So where do you get this? And you're perfectly right that at the very beginning he has conceded the fact that he doesn't have a concrete, what do you say, proof for his worldview, in a sense that he can't prove that God does exist or does not exist in that sense, right? So yeah, I mean, I see your point. He needs to give evidence for that, or at least provide some tangible arguments to prove his case before he even brings the case for morality. Kelly, you wanted to add something here.
Yeah, I've already mentioned that, okay, that I don't think it directly relates to that topic. But one thing that I've noticed is that what exactly is he trying to point out? If he's clear on the point that these things doesn't prove that God exists, that the free will, or even the concept of right and wrong and all these things, if this does not exactly prove the existence of God, then when he says that these principles cannot be explained, or are something that atheists are not, cannot be a part of the atheistic worldview somehow, or at least are not consistent with that worldview, then I mean, aren't these two things at least contradicting? Because if you show that this does not fit into that atheistic worldview, then that necessarily means that the opposite of atheism, meaning theism, then it means that it fits in the theistic worldview only.
No, you're
In that case,
thinking, there are two options, right? It's you're working with excluded middle basically
what is the
here.
third option
No,
that
I'm just
he's
saying he
referring?
say he might object to your objection by saying, let's say theism is not true, atheism is not true, but there is some supernatural.
Okay,
Yeah, but
but I
that would still mean atheism. That would still can mean atheism is not true or
exactly,
theism
exactly.
is not true.
No, I mean,
Um,
yeah, because even the what we consider as supernatural, we often
yeah,
relate it to religion and all these things.
right.
Supernatural, what if we actually think about it, is it's just something that is something. It could
Yes,
be
beyond
something that is
nature.
natural, yeah, something
Yeah,
natural, but we are not something that is it's so entirely different from the
yeah.
world that we know or the rules that we are aware of. So
Somewhat like that,
even
yeah. There's been
yeah,
difficulties in defining the supernatural, but let's say
eh,
ghosts
yeah,
demonstrate the existence of ghosts support mathematics or reason or morality. It would mean that yeah, it would mean that atheism is true. It would also mean if God doesn't exist and ghosts exist and ghosts supports mathematics, that would mean that atheism is not true and theism is not true. And yet there's a third option, I think, here, which is ghosts, which supports mathematics or reason or free will. Can you see that?
I don't know. I mean, I still don't see what you're trying to say. You're saying there's a third option,
Yeah,
atheism and theism. What is the third option? I am saying if we
No,
can
so
even have
you
supernatural
explain, you
even in
explain
an
that entity.
atheistic worldview,
Explain that entity. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not.
atheism.
we can
All
explain
I'm
that
saying
entity.
is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
all I'm
either God.
saying is,
Yeah, either
so
God. It's not either God
so
explains morality or it's not.
supernaturalism isn't supernaturalism a part of within atheism there are two different strands. One is those who believe that naturalism is true, and then the other ones who say that no, there might be something beyond naturalism as well, right?
Yeah, but
Is that
yeah,
true?
yeah, but exactly. Yeah, that's correct. So
And
you can be an atheist
then
naturalist, or you can be an
so
atheist
probably
supernaturalist.
we are stuck with the definition of which atheism we are considering, right?
Yeah,
And
but
then there's
yeah.
this boundary between atheism and theism, whereas this supernaturalism
so
kind of.
what Kylie was trying to say is that if atheism doesn't explain morality, then theism must explain morality. But and that, I feel you're right that would be a false dichotomy. Yeah, it's not a false dichotomy to say it's either atheism or theism. That's true. But when it comes to explaining something, either atheism explains morality or theism explains morality, then it is a false dichotomy because you have you you can have supernaturalism to explain um,
Morality, right? Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and in that situation neither atheism explains it nor
Nor theism.
theism.
Nor theism.
Yeah, because
Right.
it's actually great. It's because the phrasing is weird, right? Because atheism can't be an explanation. It's like, is it compatible with atheism? And in that sense, Kylie might be correct that
Yeah,
it's compatible with
exactly.
atheism to say that ghosts explain um, uh, morality. In that sense, maybe that's what Kaylee's trying to say. But it's consistent with an atheistic worldview to say that a ghost explains morality. Maybe that's what it
Right.
is.
All right, Kelly, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I don't want to sort of stay on this point for too long, but I still think that if he's saying that there are certain concepts, if he believes that those concepts do exist, like free will and right and wrong, if he thinks that they do exist, and these are not consistent with the atheistic worldview, then he must believe that the theistic worldview is correct, which should then from that he should conclude that God exists, because theism means God exists. That is what I understand from this argument, or whatever point he was raised.
All right, Madan, you are we still getting feedback from time to time
All right.
from your side? So maybe you need to put your
But I think you guys have
mic.
already, I mean, explained your view. So I guess we can move on.
All right,
Let's
all
not,
right. Let's see.
stay on
Yeah,
this point.
So we don't do cold opens or soft starts here on the big conversation. Alex.
Well, I am glad to begin on a point of agreement with you, Ben, that yes, if there is no God, there is no free will. But I think that's because of the truth of the latter of those statements. That I suppose the biggest criticism that I've made of you in a video response that I made to the atheist delusion, and this show does seem to have an extraordinary capacity for putting me face to face with people that I've been talking smack about online. So thanks again. By the way, I should say it's a great video, and everybody should watch it if they haven't. Well, I'm going to put that in the description. I think that glowing endorsement. The principal disagreement that I think I had with you, Ben, is that there was a subtle or not so subtle implication in my view that yes, with no God, there's no free will, but somehow having God can solve this problem. I mean, you said a moment ago that you don't think you can establish God's existence through reason alone, but
are you guys okay with the speed? I think it's still a bit fast. I'm wrong. Maybe
shall we reduce it? Shall we run the normal?
Martin,
Because that's why I said, yeah, it's
I think so. Let's keep it a normal speed.
Before we continue, we have a commenter here called Muhammad Waqas Khan, and he's written something in English version of Urdu or Hindi. I'm not sure exactly. You want to translate that and figure out what he's saying and maybe respond to him.
Right. Yeah, I think I'll say it. Martin, you need to mute. All right. So I think Waqas joined us in last stream probably, and then he couldn't join us and talk to us because he fell asleep or something like that. That's what he wrote in the comment section of our last Hindi Urdu stream, and he wants to join and talk to us basically. But I told him that we are probably gonna be done in about an hour or an hour and a half, so he can join. So it's his choice now whether he wants to join or not, but he's more than welcome. We are willing to talk to anybody, anytime, any questions you may have. Ask us anything except for color of our undies, and that's perfectly fine. But yeah.
So what has he said here, though? What has he said here? Can you translate that in English?
So he's saying Mufti Wajdi's stream is live right now, and there's Sabur is there as well.
Sabur Ahmed is also there.
Sabur Ahmed is also there. So they're having a chat over there. So because I go to those Mufti's stream, he's probably implying that I should be rather there, right? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just reading too much into the between the lines, probably. Right.
Well, we're kind of busy working on our own stream, if you realize,
Yeah, no, but he's more than welcome to join. I told him. I think we had a chat in the comment section. Kelly, you had a chat, brother.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think we can probably have him on later in the stream if we do get time. But otherwise, he's always welcome in our future streams. Because this stream might take a bit long. He's right.
All right. Shall we move on then?
Let's continue. Yeah, let's continue.
Right.
Assuming that you do believe in the existence of free will, you think it's a real thing that you have. Yes. And simultaneously saying that if there is no God, then free will makes no sense. Yes. That does read to me like an argument for God's existence, such that in order to either say that there is free will, in order to say that there is free will, one must believe in God. And that does strike me.
Alex actually said what I actually was saying. I think that was exactly what I was trying to say, actually. So he did mention it. Okay. Do you guys understand? Do you guys agree with? Do you guys understand that is what I was trying to say? Or do you think he's saying something different? Because I was trying to say that, but of course he said it in a very,
Can you play it again? Can you just play it again? I just missed it.
Yeah.
But yes, with no God, there's no free will. But somehow having God can solve this problem. I mean, you said a moment ago that you don't think you can establish God's existence through reason alone, but assuming that you do believe in the existence of free will, you think it's a real thing that you have. Yes. And simultaneously saying that if there is no God, then free will makes no sense. Yes. That does read to me like an argument for God's existence, such that in order to
to either say that there is free will. In order to say that there is free will, one must believe in God, and that does strike me as
Well, I
an
mean,
argument for God's
I
existence.
mean, to slightly curve that, or to kind of sand off the rough edges there, I would say that the argument I made is an argument for something extra natural.
Sure.
Now you can call
Okay,
that God or not
fine.
God, but the thing that I'm making the argument.
All right, so that's what I was thinking about extra natural, right? That's what I was pointing to. You can point it to an argument for God, but you can also point it to something extra natural, right? That's what Ben is
Right.
saying right here.
Right. But I think, and that is where the question will come, which is whether supernatural has a place in the atheistic worldview, which I think there is. I
It
see
is,
no
yes.
problem with that. I see no problem
Absolutely.
with that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, there should be no confusion about this. What we consider supernatural is not something inconsistent with atheism, because supernatural is simply something that it seems something beyond the natural rules or natural laws that we understand. How we understand the world, it does not seem consistent with that, but it could just be simply something that we are not aware of, something some sort of rules that exist in this natural world, that are part of this natural world, of course, but something so different to what we know about that it seems supernatural. That is how I would define supernatural, and I think there's no problem with that.
So you are saying is anytime any phenomenon that comes to our understanding that was not understood before automatically becomes part of natural. Would that be a right way of describing your thought?
That is how the language we use works, actually. What
Right.
I'm saying,
I
we
mean,
use the
that's how
language
I
that
thought
way.
as well. That's how I thought as well
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some time. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would. Yeah, I think that was originally a version of supernaturalism, in the sense that supernaturalism simply is the unexplored terrain of naturalism that we've not discovered yet, and when we do discover it, it becomes part of the natural. So it's all undiscovered scientific knowledge or logical or whatever knowledge is ultimately part of the supernatural. It's things that and then when we extend our knowledge, that becomes part of the natural. So once upon a time, quantum mechanics may have been considered supernatural. Or once upon a time stars were, or something like that. A lot of philosophers don't agree with that. Some philosophers define the supernatural differently, and they make the argument that supernatural is anything that is beyond extension, what Descartes called extension of material properties, beyond something that doesn't have any dimensions, and that's the supernatural. But then you have stuff like waves, electrons, that might get that,
leptons, muons,
and then you're like,
gluons,
is this what we mean by the supernatural? And then that was forfeited and thrown out the window. And then some people came along and thought, actually, what the supernatural is to what Kylie said in the part of his description, that is something that is completely different from all these physical stuff or objects or mechanics, atoms or I think recently some philosophers like Paul Draper and even non-philosophers like Richard Carrier has come out with a more concrete sort of, I think, telling definition, which what the supernatural is phenomena that goes back to an irreducible mental state. Now that might be a bit weird. That's one sort of consistent, I think, definition that gets at our intuitions of the supernatural. Phenomena that goes back to some sort of irreducible mental state. So our brains or minds, we might say, is a reducible mental state. It reduces to physics. It's made out of parts. So that does not qualify as part of the supernatural. But let's say our brains and minds, the mind was not reducible or is not identical to the brain and cannot be reduced to physical states. It's this irreducible mental state. Well, what is that? Very, very similar to the soul, right? The soul, the eternal soul that cannot be reduced. That sounds more supernaturally spooky. And that could be like one. Look, there's no right or wrong answer, I think, maybe. These are definitions that people make out, but it's a matter of intuitions. Can we have a consistent definition of the supernatural that we ultimately don't just go, oh, actually, that's just the natural. We just called it supernatural. Well, this sounds more appealable in the sense that people like Richard Carrier has forwarded, the supernatural is just irreducible mental states that cannot be explained away through reducible physics. It doesn't reduce back to physicalism. And he defines naturalism as physicalism. In that sense, then, souls, ghosts of that sense where you can't explain it through atoms, through physics is this irreducible mental state of a thing, that being that just does things through magic. There's no mechanisms. It just does things. It has a power to do things. That's part of the supernatural. But does that entail, or is that equivalent to a god? Not the theistic kind of a, of an all-powerful deity. It could just be like something like Casper the Friendly Ghost, in which case that's not really a deity. In which case the supernatural is, the theism is a subset of the supernatural. Supernatural is an umbrella term covering theism. What do you think of that?
Right. Yeah. Kelly, go ahead.
No, I mean, Mahadin has covered a lot of different definitions of supernaturalism, which would, help us. So he has given us a buffet of these definitions, which is great. And looking at all of these definitions, the key point is none of these are inconsistent with atheism.
Yes.
And therefore, his point remains, invalid or irrelevant to the discussion if he's trying to say that this cannot be explained through atheism or not, through atheism. So his point is not valid. Then his argument that he's trying to make is not valid unless he actually demonstrates that supernaturalism, however he defines it, is inconsistent with atheism. That's the simple point that he needs to demonstrate.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I agree with that. Because I agree that because my understanding of morality is very close to Platonism. Do you know when we throw out the moral dilemma, the Euthyphro dilemma? That's a manifestation of Platonism in the sense that, is God good because there is an independent standard? What is that standard? Maybe benevolence. Benevolence is an external concept. But where is benevolence? Where does it exist? Does it exist on Mars? No, it's like a Platonic concept. I'm not a Platonist, but I'm open to the possibility of a modified understanding of Platonism. I don't genuinely believe there's an immaterial world. But some people would say that is if you believe that benevolence exists, and benevolence is good, is a true statement, like an analytical truth, and it's true in all possible worlds, like a necessary truth. How is it existing? It's not existing as a concrete thing. It's more like an abstract object. That gets very close to Platonism. But I'm clearly not a theist, and moreover, I'm clearly not I'm clearly not a theist, but maybe that's a commitment to something supernatural because it's not explainable through physics. The idea that benevolence is a good thing cannot be explained or reduced to physical entities, at least. Now, does it fit all the definitions of supernatural that I've laid out? No, but some of them, in the sense that it's not made out of materials, it's not a physical thing, it's this kind of immaterial thing. So maybe that does fit the criteria of supernaturalism. And some philosophers do think that you can be an atheistic Platonist. They think Platonism is a completely atheistic. You can't be a Platonist and a naturalist, because Platonism, they argue, is a non-natural or supernatural area or domain, but it is compatible with atheism. So I think Kylie's overall correct in the sense that that it's still consistent with an atheistic worldview. And he has to show that why these things can only be explained through a theistic worldview. But he's right from the bat conceding theism isn't true or can't be shown to be true. So I'm not sure exactly where he's going to go with this. So this is actually a really fine point that Kylie's picked out, because it really, really gets him dead in the corner. I mean, it's like a airtight argument, I think.
All right, exactly. Kelly, you want to add something to it? Shall we move on?
No, we can move on.
All right.
Is that you cannot get from a materialist Darwinist universe to free will. That is not possible. So I know that the way you solve that is that you say that there is no free will.
That's right.
And what I'm saying to you is you don't act that way.
I hear this all the time. People say, look, you may say there's no free will, but you don't act as though that's the case. I suppose that I'm just confused as to what it would look like for somebody to act as if they believe there was no free will. I mean, the very argument that there is no free will that I subscribe to, at least one of the various forms that it takes, is a sort of Schopenhauerian view that you can do as you will, you just can't will what you will. And that you are essentially just a biological machine reacting to its internal and evolutionary drives. That's what's happening. Now, call that nihilistic if you like, that's a separate question. But As to the question of how this would make one act, the idea that this might cause us to sort of lay around in bed all day or something, the very mechanism that I think is responsible for eliminating the possibility of free will, that is, the drives that make people do what they do, like I say, do exactly that. Make people do what they do. They make them get out of bed in the morning. Why do you get out of bed and go and make your breakfast if there's no free will? So you go and get breakfast because there's no free will and something is driving you to do that that's outside of your control.
For sure. So to get back to the nihilism point, which you kind of put aside, so that means that this conversation is essentially worthless in any sort of real sense. I mean, effectively, we were driven here by evolutionary biology and environment to have this conversation. Everybody who's watching this is driven by evolutionary biology and environment to have a particular reaction to that thing, and ever round the cycle goes. That seems like a very purposeless life. Maybe again, I'm drawing from a realm that is not evolutionarily biologically connected. The word purpose is really, teleology obviously has been taken out of the realm of science pretty thoroughly by atheists and by many people in the sciences, although I would argue that, again, most scientists speak in the realm of teleology literally all the time, and they're borrowing language from the language of teleology, even when they're describing functions of particular body parts, right? The heart pumps blood in order to keep you alive, right? They're constantly using language that's teleological in nature. The real question that I have, and this is what goes to the question that you were asking at the beginning, before the sort of pre-question, which was the good of religion to society. One of those goods is people believing that their free will matters, and this actually is a useful thing. So I believe that it is deeply important for people in society to believe that they have the capacity to change themselves and to make different decisions than what biology would drive them to do. So you say, well, it's biology that drives you to get out of bed in the morning, which is almost Calvinist in sort of the way that it's described, right? It's like you're predestined to get out of bed in the morning, so thus you get out of bed in the morning. But the reality is that we are constantly making decisions as though those decisions make a difference in the universe. And what social science actually does tend to show is that when people believe that they have control over their own actions, and when they believe that they're capable of changing the way that they live, they do make those changes with more alacrity and in better directions than if they don't believe that. If people tend to believe in a deterministic universe, they do act worse. So it may work. This is going to be sort of Straussian in its implications, but that may work for you. You're a very high IQ individual who can somehow reconcile the idea of living a very purposeful life with the idea that actually there's no purpose to anything. But for the vast majority of people, that is not actually how they live. And I would suggest that even in your daily life, you don't get out of bed in the morning thinking, man, my biology is driving me this morning to get on the bike, have a great day. The sun is shining. That's my biology doing this. And I don't think that most people who live purposeful lives, even if they believe that everything they're doing is predetermined by the world around them, by their own biology, I don't believe they actually feel that. They have to engage in what they themselves would term an illusion in order to feel a sense of purpose and meaning in their lives.
Of course, but that's what the evolutionary process, in my view, in my worldview, I should say, has done so well, is provide.
Anything you'd like to add here?
Kylie, do you want to go first?
One thing I'd like to say that the positive aspect that Ben has outlined here, that okay, why would you do if there was nothing, and so there could be a downside of it as well. Many of our religion would tell you that this is not a life that you should live for. This is just a what do you call it? This is just a preview. This is just a trailer. Your next life is your real life. Then again, the same problem here, right? Why would you do anything? You would just be happy, working as a mechanic, or maybe not trying to enhance your life or of the lives of people around you. Not work hard, not do anything good. And maybe in certain extreme cases, you might do something really horrible as well. If, say, if the God you believe in tells you to do something, or at least in your understanding of it, let's be charitable over here, right? And if God tells you to do something really horrible, you'd be able to you'll do it. So you're probably not doing anything good for the society, but it's a detrimental to the society in a sense, right? Not as a whole probably, but it could.
Exactly. And I think that's a very good point that Ben Shapiro, I think, probably is missing. Religion has its positive impacts. Yes, I don't think anyone should deny that. And I don't think anyone can deny that. It gives people hope. It gives people, a lot of people, it gives some sort of purpose, and to a lot of them it gives a positive purpose. But since the topic is, does religion is religion actually good for society? The concept of religion alone, I mean, as a whole, you cannot say that it's positive, because there are many religions which have doctrines and principles which you would, and particularly even Ben Shapiro would, consider terrible or atrocious. And he and his community has been a part of subjugation from such religions. So
Right.
for him to defend the concept of religion as a whole, I think he's forgetting something very important, that there are religions in this world who will give you purpose, the kind of purpose which isn't good, which would actually be detrimental for the society. Because, for example, if a religion gives you the purpose that a certain group of people are supposed to die, or they should die, they deserve punishment because of whatever terrible sins they or their forefathers have done or committed in the past, then they are going to do some terrible stuff to that group. So such a religion which gives such sort of purpose is bad for the society. Any religion which, let's say, for example, a death, I mean, the point that you mentioned about a religion which which emphasizes too much on the afterlife, that this life is just unimportant, or the true life actually awaits you in the afterlife. If these are the key principles of a religion, then that sort of religion would make people not care about this world that much. For example, let's say, I'm not sure if death cult, the term death cult is used for cults who believe, that I mean, who end up committing suicides. I'm not sure if that is what it means, but there are such cults who which is actually
Yeah, Kelly.
following a
Yes, I
religion.
think Marilyn Manson was one of those death cults. Probably somebody is gonna
I'm
correct
not
me
sure.
if I'm
I don't know any
yeah.
in particular
And
names,
Jim
but
Jones, probably. I think there were a
yeah,
few cults like those, right? Death cults,
exactly.
probably.
So such death cults do exist, who actually emphasize afterlife so much that they would give their own lives, they would commit suicides to end their lives. And again, is that something beneficial for them or for the society? At least it's not beneficial for them. Um, if atheism is true and theism is not, then particularly it's not beneficial for them, because they ended their life for no reason. So I think this is something that Ben Shapiro is missing in that point, that he cannot give a broad statement that religion is beneficial.
Yeah,
Religion has its positives,
Right.
so does
exactly. Yeah,
atheism has.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
Before Madin, before you, I'll just say one more thing, and then Mike is yours. One of the questions that we asked at the very beginning should hold over here as well,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it
Very relevant.
is a comforting lie better for the society than an uncomfortable or bitter truth, basically, and why, basically. And this, if anybody is listening to it and hasn't responded to it, please do respond to this question and the other question, the first one as well, in the comment section, right, Madan?
hello. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, exactly here. Well, in the sense that what Ben Shapiro is defending is one type of religion, which is a theistic religion of the Abrahamic Judeo-Christian kind, and then he's making that a case for the overall proposition: religion is good for society. But that's just one religion, right? Not even one, maybe. If you think of Christianity being an assortment of different denominations, then it's one sect. Christianity, perhaps, or Judaism, or whichever belief he thinks is good. Maybe a few of them, maybe things more than one. Maybe he has great respect for the Christian beliefs just as much as he does for Judaism, and it's very many variations. But to say that that represents all religions is highly misleading, right? That's like using a small set of Muslims to make a generalization about entirety of Islam. Then if that's like a generalization, hazy generalization fallacy, then the point that he's picking out one or two religions, that's to do with God's theism to represent all is obviously wrong. Again, in respect to the main heading of the debate, and the other thing is he pretty much disbands his responsibility to prove these religions, right? So he's making a different sort of argument. I think he's making an argument from the usefulness, irrespective of its epistemic truth. So religion is good not because its fundamental tenets are good, and now he's not really talking about all religions. He's talking about one religion, really. So his religion is good not because of its fundamental tenets are true in actuality, either empirically or whatever, but because it's useful or morally good, or it has some benefits in order to sustain certain things. Almost like these are useful myths, useful fiction, you want to call it, a useful fiction. Religion is a useful fiction. So now the first point that we mentioned, that, if religion is false and you can't prove God, what Kylie mentioned, and atheism can't prove free will, then what does? Well, he's not talking about proof. He's saying he's disbanded the notion of proof. That's what he's doing. He's nuclear bombed the notion of truth, and he's just simply saying that it's a useful fiction that more aptly can act as a scaffolding for morality, for logic, reason, for free will, in a way atheism can't. Maybe that's the point that he's making. The issue with that is, why can't atheism have useful fictions? If his entire argument will be on the basis that there's certain he's trying to persuade the atheist or naturalist Bandcamp to say, look, religion, you know what, there are certain useful fictions that are necessary, and religion provides certain useful fictions. Let's say we bite the bullet and say, we actually need some useful fictions. Is it necessarily true that religion is the only way to get that useful fiction? Yeah, because here now we've disbanded epistemic truth. Maybe we need, I don't know how you're going to show that you need a useful fiction without already assuming a morality. Maybe you might assume a moral theory that shows that certain lies, certain falsehoods, certain myths are more are better for humanity.
Beneficial.
Beneficial for humanity. And if that's the case, does it have to be a religious useful fiction? Why can't then we can straightforwardly hold the useful fiction of free will on its own? Why do you need
another point in
the need of religion?
Point in question is, which religion? Which one would you pick? They are not mutually, they may have some points of intersection, but they are somewhat exclusive as well. You know, you're not gonna find which one is the true one, basically.
I mean,
which one are you gonna pick for the kind of society that you want to build, basically?
Right. I mean, Ben Shapiro would not say that the existence of Islam is better for society. I think I don't think he does. That is what I actually get from his general criticism. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think
I'm thinking of an extreme examples from those African or Amazonian jungles, those religions that have your firstborn child to be sacrificed. Those are also religions. You wouldn't want those kind of religions. So I'm just taking an extreme case to make the point, basically, that you think your one is the right one, basically, and that's why you believe. You wouldn't even want Islam to come into the fore and say, hey, we have the claim to the better society, which they probably are going to contest for it. But then you won't trust that, basically. You would say no to it, right? So why yours is the question. And even if we looked, and I think both of you mentioned earlier as well, if we go really deep into your books, those are problematic things there as well, right? Which ones? Why should you? Then
He may say that unlike Islam, his version of Christianity or Judaism, I'm not even sure what exactly he believes. His version
he's
of
a Jew.
He's a Jew. I know he's a Jew, but Jews have a funding for Christianity. They've got this kind of hybrid thing going on.
Right. Yeah. You might be right. Yeah,
that's why I'm saying. I'm confused. Well, he might be saying that his useful, if he's trying to entertain the idea that there are certain useful fictions, he might say this one is more useful than other useful fictions, right? But I don't know how he's going to show that, because it still doesn't support the main proposition of the debate, which is religion. And you might need to do you have to define religion, then you have to show analyze empirically. You have to have a methodology in place to show the empirical benefits of religion. Maybe you have to show technological, practical, civilizational, health-wise, and then count up things and show that religion overall is a net positive. And if you can't do that sustain that for all religions, you have to do it for your own specific religion, which is Judaism. So Judaism, overall, even though it has some lies, it's a useful fiction that has a net positive. But then, why do we need Judaism for the useful fiction? What if, or Christianity or Islam? Let's say Islam obviously says that there is free will, but Islam also has many other problematic aspects. It could very well be that we can get rid of the problematic aspects of Islam and take only the useful fiction of free will. And if we're going to invent things, what Ben is arguing for, because there's no support for his points that he said, he's already admitted there's no evidence. If we're going to just invent things, why can't we just invent a humanistic religion, or a non-religion? Call it humanism. It's not really a religion, then we won't call it that. And this free will is presupposed as part of it, right? And that might work out in a cost-benefit net value thing as an analysis to be better, in the sense that it doesn't have all the horrendous things that other things that religions or Christianity or Judaism, Islam brings, but it takes the good thing, which is free will, a useful fiction for free will, useful fiction for morality, and we start from there.
Exactly. Yes. True.
Right.
All right, Carrie. What happened to? Did I remove
Yeah,
it
you
by
stopped the
mistake?
video.
I removed it by mistake. I was too excited. All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Precisely that illusion. I mean,
Just one question. What is length where you would say, okay, let's stop and then maybe leave it for the next time?
Can we talk? Major Reynolds has made a few comments. So I think we've not let him given him airtime here.
Oh, you want he wants to. You want me to show his comments? You're saying?
Comments, yeah.
Worthless to the universe, not worthless to the people engaging in the debate or the people waiting. He's talking about the point Ben was raising. Okay.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro, when Ben Shapiro was raising that point about everything being worthless.
Yeah, worthless. Right. We are just like molecules and atoms and quarks and leptons bumping around each other, pretty much, right? Also, I think he's subscribing agency to things that do not need it.
Yes.
Like biology. Biology is making me wake up. No, you're waking up because of natural biological processes. I think it's about it's about the wordings or the language that it's emotive language.
He's just being poetic. I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's just a mistake of the language. He just because he's talking very quickly about lots of things. He's just trying to shorten it and speak in figurative sense. He knows what he means. On an atheistic worldview, biology is not making you wake up. You're waking up because of a biological process. I think it's just because
just the language, the way he's using the language, right?
Yeah.
Biology is just biology is just a label we attach to the body of knowledge that deals with the realm of scientific pursuit. Okay,
it's a continuation of his previous comment.
Yeah.
Sure. Biology, if you look at it, it's actually the subject of thyself, not thyself per se. I'm not Shakespeare. What I mean is, it's about ourselves. Bio, as in our biographies. So it's the study of,
self.
It was initially self, but then it's obviously extended beyond the self. So this is how it shows how disciplines can expand beyond its original meaning. Right, but it originally started off as the study of ourselves, our human anatomy, physiology, and so on. But now, obviously, a subdomain of biology would be perhaps zoology. A subdomain of biology would be plants, and that's not really ourselves. So,
yes, right.
All right, So, Madan, let's say we listen to Alex's next point. And then maybe stop it and do the next stream with the remaining stuff, or you want to keep going further? Maybe.
I mean, let's do it for half hour more. I think we are doing things at a good pace today. So
right.
Let's do it at least for a half hour.
Yes.
Let's move on then.
It's not as that. I mean, you say you don't get out of bed in the morning thinking, gosh, look at my biological
My neurons are
drive.
firing. Yeah.
Of course not, because if I did, then the whole evolutionary purpose that this illusion serves would fall away. I mean, you say that this is a fairly purposeless life, and perhaps the implication is that it's a bit of a depressing one. I didn't come here to inspire optimism in people. I just think it is in fact the case.
By the way.
It is in fact the case that free will doesn't exist, and we may feel very nihilistic towards that, but as a wise man once said, facts don't care about your feelings. And I will say that the argument against free will, in my view, is based upon something broader than just scientific analysis or empirical research. Rather, we can build an argument, I think, from a law of logic, the proposition that P must either be true or false, and it can't be both, it can't be neither. It has to be one or the other. Now, this law of the excluded middle, one of the foundational precepts of philosophy, we can simply ask a question of any kind of mental activity, and this will be regardless of whether it's material or immaterial. That's what makes this a crucial argument, and an important one, a pertinent one, is that you can ask of that mental activity, is it determined or is it not? That is it determined by anything else, or is it completely undetermined by anything? If it's undetermined by anything, then it's random, and you're by definition not in control of that which is random. If it's determined by something, then it's either determined by something further inside your mind or inside your brain or indeed inside your soul, or it's determined by something external to your brain. If it's determined by something external to yourself, I should say yourself rather than your brain here to rid this conversation of any implicit materialism, exterior to yourself, if that's what's determining the action, then clearly you're not in ultimate control of that action. If it's something inside of yourself somewhere, then all you do is push the problem back and you ask the question again, is that thing determined or is it indeterminate? So indeterminate, it's random. Determined, you keep going back until you either terminate in something outside of the self, something, or I suppose something undetermined and therefore random, either of which you are completely out of control in. If you say that it terminates in something like a soul, people like to do this. They say, well, look, with a religious philosophy, we have the benefit of introducing a soul. That doesn't solve anything, because you still need to, it's not a matter of having to explain the mechanism by which the soul brings about actions. That may well be a mystery. But if it is the case that whatever it is that's doing that is either determined or it's not, and that if it's not, it's random and therefore out of your control, and that if it is, it ultimately terminates in something outside of yourself or something random, and both of which are out of your control, free will cannot exist.
Well,
so I would be careful.
That argument.
All right. Anybody wants to add anything here?
Yeah. Oh, no, I completely agree with Alex. I've been saying this for many, many years.
Yeah.
You don't even need to
agree.
demonstrate that the universe is deterministic to show that there are very, very difficult problems with the concept of free will. You could have, you don't need a deterministic universe for it. You can explain it through purely just a bit of thinking, that in the sense that in order to have the sort of free will that people imagine in a folklore sense, in the common sense, it's called contra-causal free will or libertarian free will. It avoids the laws of causality. It's an uncaused first cause. That's what you're trying to imagine, and that might be difficult to think of. Some people also, if you're a theist who believes that you can't have an uncaused first cause, people like William Lane Craig, then the idea of free will kind of goes out the window anyway. But like the philosophers like Strawson, who a British philosopher, who made the argument that just similar to kind of Alex, but not exactly the same thing, that if you need to have a free will, then it might be something that is in your desires, your disposition, your feelings, and that's what might be regarded as free will. Somebody's not forcing you to do anything. It is you make a decision through your desires, and that desire makes a choice between one thing or another, and that's because there's no gun to your head. It's your desire making that decision through your feelings and desires and so on. You're making that decision. Therefore, this is a demonstration of a paradigmatic case of free will. Well, wait a minute. Did you choose your desires? No, you didn't. Did you put your desire there? Where did the desire come from? Well, if you do try to choose your desire, there'll have to be a desire chooser. So this is what Strawson says. This is not Alex's. But there has to be a desire chooser. So there might be something determining that desire, but what is that thing that's determining that desire? Well, maybe it's another thing that is, it'll be determined, because if there's a desire chooser choosing that specific desire, who chooses the desire chooser's desires? And then it leads to an infinite regress where there's never a desire that is not chosen by something before it. In other words, there's a determined sequence. So in other words, Strawson is saying that you can't crawl out of your body and choose your desires. If you did crawl out of your body and choose your desires, well, you already have some pre-configured desires to choose those desires. What chose those desires that chose those desires? So you can never have a chosen desire, or you can never, so if you can't have a chosen desire, there'll always be an uncaused desire, which means that you are determined by your unchosen desires, but then you're a slave to your desires. So it's very similar to what Alex is saying, in the sense that there's a string of determinism that's going back. And if you notice, you didn't have to show that the universe is deterministic. It's just of logical order, because the only other possibility of some things being deterministic is it's indeterministic. So it's either deterministic or indeterministic. But if it's indeterministic, that means randomness chose your desires. But that doesn't seem like a conceivable case of free will. The reason that I have a desire is because of a spontaneous act inside of me that I did not choose. It's like a random. So indeterminism. So a lot of people try to say, a lot of people make the argument that quantum mechanics shows that the universe is not deterministic, and if our brains operate at a sub level out of quantum mechanics or something, then our will is not determined. But wait a minute, the opposite of determinism is randomness. And many, like Alex has quoted Schopenhauer, a lot of people think free will requires, at the very minimum, something to be determined. Your character, your personality has to be determined. Because if your personality and character is random, then your desires are just random. There's no logical order to it. One day you want ice cream, and then next day, next hour, next minute, you don't, because there's no personality. You can't sustain a coherent, cogent, organized personality on randomness. It has to be ordered. But then again, if it's ordered, then your personality is determined by things that are beyond you, because you're going to have a random set of desires, feelings. And this is true whether you have a soul, because just like you don't pick your neurology or brain or genetics, nobody picks or chooses their soul, right? So I completely agree with this is a genuine problem. And I've always mentioned this. It's not just a problem for atheists or naturalists. It's a problem for theists, because it's a logical issue.
I totally agree with that. I think this is a problem.
If this argument is run all the way up, then that means even God doesn't have a free will. If the God exists, pretty much.
True. That is true. Right. And as I was mentioning, that this was a problem that I even had when I was a Muslim, and I sort of became a Jabriya Muslim. I mean, it was something that when I used to think about it, I used to say, well, I can see no way that free will can exist. So I think, and I had read the hadith about that topic, so I had an idea that I was quite sure that there is no free will, and maybe and I was a Muslim at the time, but I had that problem with free will because of this exact same line of reasoning, that there can be no either our actions are random, truly random, without any cause. Because once you understand, the key is once you understand what is the opposite of determined. The opposite of determined
is complete
something
chaos.
Determined is complete randomness, something that has no cause, some totally random. And that is when, once you realize that, once you understand that is where you'll realize the problem with free will. I think that people who believe in free will, even theists, that is where they should try to think about it a bit. That what is the opposite of something that is determined?
Yeah, I think people don't. Madan, I'll just say one thing. People don't want to leave this this comfortable cushion of free will, because somehow that makes them think really bleakly about everything, if the free will is taken away from them, pretty much, right? Because then everything seems like it's a powerlessness, pretty much. It's powerlessness, pretty much, right? And so that's the reason why I think people are really, I don't think a lot many people have thought about free will as much as, I would say, maybe hardly even 1% of the population. I don't want to put any number over
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
but very few people think about that. But those,
yes.
even those who think through it, just kind of cannot grapple with this thought of having taken away all their, power from them, pretty much.
Yeah, no,
I think
you're right. Kylie, you want to say something?
yeah, I'll just say one thing. I mean, what I'd suggest, is that people actually look into videos about what is true randomness, and I think that will actually help them with an, if they were not able to understand this line of reasoning. I think they need to look up videos, and there's a very good video on this topic by Vsauce. I think they have made a very good video on what is randomness. So I think the people should look that topic up, and I think it will help them understand this particular
Kelly,
topic.
if you have a link,
This line of
I'll
reasoning.
put it up.
I'll look it up, and then I'll add it in the comments.
Hmm. I mean, there has been attempts to reconcile free will with determinism, in the sense that most philosophers realize that determinism is necessary for free will, in the sense that you need some sort of determination between your desires and the action that you perform. And randomness, or true randomness, that you might get on indeterminism cannot be the case if you want free will. So a necessary condition for free will is some deterministic connection between your desires. It's an order of your personality. So your desire your personality consists of a set of desires, feelings, motivations, ambitions, and so on. And that needs an organization, and you can't have that on randomness. That needs logical connections between each other systematically that repeat themselves, so that you have a concrete personality that doesn't change like chaos, in a chaotic sense. So you need determinism for free will. But then the problem is determinism, although you may say it's a necessary condition for free will, it's not a sufficient condition for free will, because if things are determined at the same time, because you're not choosing your desires, that means, in the same sense that, let's say you have unfortunately you have the brain of Ted Bundy, who's a psychopath, right? You unfortunately have his genetics. You unfortunately have his neurology. You are unfortunately born to parents who gave you those genetics, and unfortunately you may have been subjected to a particular sort of environment, and so on. Had it not been for these genes, had it not been for this brain that you had no control over, you are susceptible, if not prone, to do certain things. And under the idea that even the environment is not controlled by you, you are just like a helpless puppet in this environment who's going through life and learning these things, and your brain is recording it. What determines those recordings of your brain, those experiences that get registered into your brain? Well, the efficiencies of your brain, how good your memory is, how good the brain is, and so on. Somebody who is observing something like piano playing with a high IQ will readily understand piano playing and ingrain it into his brain. Somebody who is not, because of his brain. So ultimately, it comes down to these kind of deterministic things that are beyond your control. What this shows then, if determinism is a necessary condition, at least for free will, at the same time, it kind of destroys the possibility of free will, because we think there's another model of another condition for free will, for it to become free will, is that you have to be able to free to do otherwise, in the sense that you could have genuinely done otherwise in a particular scenario. So on Friday, December 1986, I don't know when Ted Bundy was born or whatever. Friday, December 1986, let's say somebody called Ted Bundy would not have raped that woman if the universe is replayed in that specific situation. If you rewind the universe and play it again,
If
Ted Bundy
all the molecules and all the
yeah,
atoms were put back in the same state,
exactly.
the other
Yeah,
thing could have happened, basically, right?
yeah. In fact,
I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the fundamental problems of free will. How would you ascertain a fact that something could have happened otherwise, right? Because the feature film is only running once, basically.
yeah. I mean, some
You don't
people,
have any way to rewind it. You don't have any means to do that.
yes, some people may
Something else
say,
will.
Yes, some people may say that given that we have multiple examples of physical order in subsections of this universe, that if we mimic and replicate in the exact same order, it creates almost similar results, which indicates to people that an inference, you can make an inference that if every single molecule then was a complete replica, then the entire universe would also follow the same and produce the same results. So some people might say that the concept of determinism is unfalsifiable, right? But in this situation, it's not necessary because whether or not determinism is true, if the opposite is not that much more appealable, which is indeterminism. So let's just assume it is true because that's the only other option when we've thrown out the concept of indeterminism to explain free will. We have to assume determinism is the only option. And if even on that, what you're getting is you don't need to rewind the universe back to the Big Bang. Suppose you just rewind it 1 hour before Friday, December 26, 1986, or whatever date I said, I can't remember. And Ted Bundy went and raped some woman. It just rewind it by 2 hours. Well, the same events would unfold because all the physical states are in the same position. It's like a domino effect. It's like billiard balls. It's just the laws of physics. If all the laws of the universe are repeating themselves exactly how it is, then the same. Yeah.
Mahadin, sorry, interrupting. That line of thought reminds me of that movie Groundhog Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many times you play that movie, the same events of the have you guys seen that movie?
Yes, I have.
Right, the same picture will play again and again and again and again, right? I mean,
Yeah, but
that's if I remember correctly, that's the same. He feels
yeah,
that the same.
weirdly though, I know you're correct, Philo, but weirdly though, in that movie can also be interpreted as a demonstration of free will because the main protagonist could do different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in
Yeah.
somewhat that's what I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Basically, that
Yeah.
does the same. He feels that the same things are happening, but he's changing a few things. Basically, so yes, you're right that he can claim that he changed a few things, right?
Yeah. Not only, he changed a few things. He made other people act differently. You get
Right.
it? So he
No,
changed
but
a lot. Yeah.
I did not. I've not watched this video. I'm getting a feedback now. Then sorry. So I've not watched that video, but from what I just understood, because I have seen similar videos or similar movies where a person keeps on reliving that a particular day, and then he just continues to do a little bit something different than the previous day that he experienced. So even in that case, you were saying that it could be shown as something as a proof of the existence of free will, but I mean, once again, it's not exactly a proof of free will, because what's happening is that maybe uh, he is there is something innate in him which is causing him to do something, trying out something different. Because whenever he does something different, I believe something different does exist, tend to happen in that movie or not. I'm not sure if that happens slightly, even if it's a very slight difference. But if something does vary from his previous attempt, then maybe that is the difference that causes him to change or have a different decision the next time.
So you are saying that those things are changing, but they are changing deterministically, right? But then
Exactly.
once you assume determinism is true, then the same audio should play again and again. Same song should play again and again, right? I think
Mm.
that's kind of the thing. But yeah, I mean that example of Groundhog Day is probably not fitting here
Yeah.
because something keeps changing. Otherwise, that then they'll probably make a movie of 10 minutes and then maybe run it 6 times or 7 times, right? They just
Yeah.
loop it
Yeah.
again and again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do
I
you
just want.
guys?
Sorry, go on.
No, if you want to finish that point, because I was going to add in something new. So if you want to finish that point, you can go ahead.
No, our commenter here, Major Reynolds, noticed the same thing here that on Groundhog Day actually might be a very good demonstration or an exemplar of free will, because the main protagonist, Bill Murray, has self control in a way in which he's not determined by the laws of physics. He acts differently each time. In fact, In fact, you actually what Mark Reynolds is saying, Major Reynolds is saying, is very interesting because
he's disagreeing. He's
it's a
disagreeing with you actually.
Yeah, it's a deterministic universe in the sense that Monday's memory affects Tuesday's memory. Tuesday's memory affects Wednesday's memory. Wednesday's memory. So in the sense, it could actually be deterministic in that sense because soon as the same day repeats, he is now remembering everything from the previous day.
Exactly.
He just wakes up to the same day, but so it's still determined in that sense. But and okay,
So
yeah, that makes
his
sense.
his memories are persisting basically from.
Actually, yeah, Major Reynolds has actually worded it quite nicely. I mean, I was maybe trying to say something very similar, and I mean, let me explain it and give you an example of what of something similar. So it's something like, for example, I am trying on. Let's say I have a switchboard, for turning on. I have, let's say, 100 different buttons in front of me, and there's one bulb that I'm trying to turn on. Now I continue to try different buttons, but none of them are working, right? So I'm looking for that button, the one which will turn that light on. Now I continuously try different button each time because of the fact that the previous button did not turn on that light. So that the groundhog, the guy in the ground is actually trying different things, but he fails continuously. But that failure is that knowledge that he gains, that what I did not change it, so let me try something different now.
Mhm.
So I think now you could say that why is he trying something different? Because that something is innate in him, that the concept of trial and error is built into us to achieve a certain goal or certain outcome that we are looking for.
Mhm. Yeah. Um,
I think we should move on from Groundhog Day. I think probably that's
Let's do that.
Really interesting point. Yeah, I'll move on. I'll move. It's just I think I don't think Major Reynolds spelled this out clearly, but what he's written here has made me rethink that Groundhog Day can be interpreted as a compatible with free will. In fact, it's not. It's still strictly determined. It's just the same day repeats. But his brain is still determined by previous events. In that sense, there's no it's not indeterministic, and it's not a libertarian concept of free will, in which case he is not bound by the laws of causality. He's bound by the laws of causality. He's bound by determinism, in the sense that his determined his experiences of Groundhog Day informs the next day. When he wakes up and he realizes the same day again, his experiences and memories impact that day, and things that he learns in that day, and new insights that he makes, and then he takes it to the next day when he wakes up again, and therefore is still determined by his desires, right? Input from the environment, of course, but that's still hard determinism. In other words, it's no different from me living my normal life. It's just the same days being repeated. Well, it's still that the same days being repeated. I'm still part of my deterministic brain, and I'm still going through determinism. So it's not incompatible with determinism. I know Major Reynolds has not said this. Maybe it wasn't even his point, but when I read that, that's what I thought.
Right. All right. Shall we play the
let's play. Yeah.
I mean, it does rely on the complete deconstruction of the self. Right? I mean, you're using the term self in this argument in, I think, a couple of different ways. You're saying something outside yourself, but then you're breaking down the self into a bunch of separate components, as though the self is a computer, right? As though if you took the self and you broke it down into a machine, and there's like the microchip, and you got the processor, you got all these different parts of it. So it has to be coming from here, or it has to be coming from here. But I think the very idea that we have of ourselves as selves is as a deciding being. And so the attempt to carve that down into, so which parts of the deciding being, that is an avoidance strategy. So I don't think that the argument quite holds.
So if we can call the self just a deciding being,
call it a deciding being,
then that sort of fundamental assumption that we make about the nature of the self, I don't think is going to be incompatible with atheism.
How so?
Because we're talking about what the self is here. I mean, atheists believe in the self. Everybody believes in the
Well,
self.
no, that's not. I mean, that I find difficult to believe. Why would an atheist believe in the self? The self is a series of non-deciding mechanisms, as you've described. I see that your view.
Do you guys have anything to expound on this?
No.
The definition of self.
Alex is correct. If you believe in a self of that type that Ben Shapiro has highlighted, that's compatible with atheism, right? And so if the self is this internal set of mechanisms that are beyond your control, then that means there isn't any free will under the idea that it's all determined. And in order to get free will, it needs to be undetermined, or sorry, in order for it to be free will, it has to be personally caused. You have to be the primary cause, but you're not the primary cause, because your desires are, your feelings are, and you didn't cause your desires or feelings, and therefore your feelings and desires are like external causes.
So the self in this case should be outside. That's what Alex is saying, right? I mean,
what Alex is saying, if the self can be described as these causes that you did not cause, that ultimately helps you render a choice. So the desire Ted Bundy had to kill somebody, well, that's only because his neurology was
right. They're not determined by you, but some outside influence.
Exactly. Right. So what Shapiro is saying, that we can't split things up in that way. In other words, he's trying to say, if it's your brain, that's you. Why are you not identifying with yourself? Your desires are your desires. This is what I'm trying to say. And what Alex is saying, if that's the case, that's compatible with atheism. If he's right, if Shapiro is correct, that your desires are your desires, why are you democrating it, breaking it down into these external ingredients that you didn't choose? Of course, your desire is your desire. This collection of desires that you go, I didn't choose this desire, I didn't choose this desire. Who chose this desire? I didn't choose the desire. Who chose my brain? Who chose my DNA? Who chose that is your DNA, that is your genetics, that is your brain, that is your desire. Why are you fragmenting it out into these impersonal things that are external when they are just you? They comprise of you. But okay, let's say Alex accepts that. That doesn't require theism to accept, right? So I don't see why you need theism to accept that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And yes, sorry, Brandon.
5 seconds. What does theism do to explain that? Because on theism, a soul has the same problem. I didn't choose. Alex can say you didn't choose the desires in your soul. So it's the same thing. The difference between atheism and theism in this regard is that atheism plus naturalism just says you're a brain. Theism plus the theistic scripture says you're a brain, you're a soul, fundamentally. It's just a substance difference. Both of them are subject to the same analysis. On atheism, naturalism, you did not choose your brain and the desires in your brain. On supernaturalism, theism, Christianity, whatever you want to call it, you did not choose your soul and the desires in your soul, right? So the problem exists there. But if Shapiro is saying you are your desires, that's the case on whether you're a soul or whether you're a brain. Yeah, if you are your brain. On atheism, it would be, or naturalism, it would be you are your brain. On theism, it would be you are your soul. So it's not something special that only theists can argue for. Sorry, yeah, Kylie.
No, you're right. And what I'd like to point out is that he said that Alex is breaking this self into, all these parts and microprocessors, and he used the analogy of microprocessor and something like a computer. Well, his own worldview, I think, aligns with that kind of analogy as well. Why? Because according to him, there's a deciding self, but that deciding self doesn't work on its own, because you have to, even under their worldview, he has to realize that there is a set of desires that deciding self has to sort of go through, right? Or to actually struggle against. And then there is also there are desires, and so you could say that there are positive desires, there are negative desires, there are desires to do good, there are desires to do bad. and the deciding self actually has to choose between them. So even in that, the worldview where in the theistic worldview, let's say that it is only exclusive to the theistic worldview, that a soul exists, then that soul actually has a part of it which is the desires that are there. So I think he also has that similar kind of structure uh, of self, which uh, Alex is maybe proposing, or pointing out to.
Yeah. And that's, by the way, the vast majority of philosophers who write on free will are compatibilists. They believe free will can exist whilst the universe is determined, because determinism is a necessary condition for free will. And they define free will as the compatibilist definition of free will, which is not contracausal free will. Contracausal meaning you contradict the laws of physics, that you can defy the laws of physics, not because of that, not because there's no determined antecedent that precedes your exercise of the will, not because you can cause your desires, but because exactly what Ben Shapiro argues, that your desires are you. So they start off with the idea that free will isn't you contradicting the laws of physics. Free will isn't randomness through indeterminism. Rather, free will is when you are not forced by some external pressure or coercion by another or a system or an institution forcing you to do something beyond your own rational faculties and your desires or motivations. So free will is when you go to a shop and you choose to buy a chocolate because it is in line with your desires. Free will isn't the case, or in this situation, when somebody puts a gun to your head and makes you buy something else, then it's negating your free will. So compatibilists have a relative definition of free will. They agree you can't have libertarian free will that is contracausal, contradicting the laws of physics type of free will. They agree that if the universe replayed itself, the same thing will happen again. You can't have that sort of free will. This is what an ardent defender of free will, Daniel Dennett, argues. He said you can't have this sort of free will, but you can have a relative notion of free will. He says this spooky notion of free will that you can contradict the laws of physics is something unachievable and unattainable, and we don't even need it. He argues instead the notion of free will that we only need is the notion that as long as nobody is forcing us, as long as no one is punishing us, there's no coercion, and we use our mental faculties, and it's our mental faculties, not somebody else's, right? Then that is an exercise of free will. So if I genuinely have a desire for chocolate and I go get that chocolate, even though I didn't cause that desire, it's my desire, and I'll go get that free will. This is, by the way, made by Daniel Dennett, an ardent atheist philosopher, and he thinks compatibilism is true, which is free will exists compatible with determinism. He's an atheist. What is Ben Shapiro arguing? Something very similar. He's making a case for compatibilism. Compatibilism is entirely, for sake of a better word, compatible with atheism.
Right. All right. Kelly, you want to add something, or shall we play further into? Maybe let's make this last
Yeah, we
few
can.
minutes, and then we'll probably close the stream. Or if somebody wants to come in, and especially Major Reynolds, if he wants to come and talk to us, he's more than welcome. Have we ever talked to Major Reynolds? Probably not, right?
I don't think so. I can't recall it.
Right. I think last time we asked him, but he probably didn't have time or something happened.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we asked him, but he was too busy or too shy. He said he's not very. He said I think he said he was a little bit apprehensive.
Shy on
Yeah.
coming on the
I don't want to
stream,
say
right?
shy. I didn't want to say shy, so I was looking for apprehensive. But we do have Saeed here. But the thing is, Saeed, we did entertain you in the last stream, right?
Last stream, right? Yeah, we had two Hindi streams in between. I think, or one maybe. I forget.
Yeah, I think I have forgotten to send Saeed some emails regarding the problem of evil, and I think we should do that first. I will send Saeed you an email regarding the problem of evil, and then we can have you on maybe. So I'm not sure we should do that on this stream because I've not sent them yet.
You know, whatever Mahadan is saying, you have to listen to Mahadan first, and then listen to what I say here. Is you need to watch a few of our streams, you know, go through them, and then bring questions from those, and maybe try to refute those arguments that we are presenting over here, right, on these streams, right? That would be a very that would be nice of you to do that, because then we'll say that okay, you are sincere in learning things, or at least listening to us, maybe, and think through those problems, and just attack our arguments, right? So then we can have a maybe a healthy conversation from that point on, right? And we'll realize that okay, you are sincere, you're listening, and not just bringing some. And then maybe sometime in future we can get into some different argument that you may have, once we realize that, oh, you have seen a certain number of our videos, right? Shall we move on then?
Yeah.
View of the self is an atheist view of the self, a meatball wandering through space, as I've put it somewhat colorfully. The sort of Spinoza idea that you're a stone that's been thrown, and you can comprehend that you've been thrown, but you're a stone that's been thrown, and that's just the way that it is. Why would there be in atheist philosophy such a thing as a deciding self? The deciding self, the deciding being, is external to the idea of an evolutionary cause, because the very word deciding suggests uncaused decision making, and you've just excluded it through your own philosophy.
Uncaused decision making, I suppose, is a concept that I think is unintelligible, and therefore, if there is an unintelligibility of the self on atheism, I suppose the thrust of the criticism that I made to essentially every point you made in that video, except for the argument from motion, is that what you're saying to me, if it applies to atheism, I think simultaneously applies to theism as well.
How so?
An uncaused decision. I mean, what is the process by which a decision is made?
But now you're falling into the same sort of argument that I excluded at the beginning, which was, I said that.
Martin, you wanted me to stop? Sorry, or am I just hearing things? Okay, there was a feedback from somewhere, maybe.
The beauty of religion is that there's a bunch of stuff I don't understand. So I can't explain to you how the uncaused self makes decisions.
Well, then I can't explain to you how the uncaused self exists on an atheistic
But you have a
framework.
burden and I don't. Meaning that
I don't think that's the case.
You do, though. I mean, the simple fact is that you are the one who's claiming that a reasonable materialist universe is the cause of all. And so if that's the case, you do have to explain the mechanism in a way that I certainly do not. My entire philosophy rests on the positing of an entire realm of things I don't understand in terms of their interaction with the world. Now, as I said at the very beginning, that leaves me a giant escape hatch.
Can you pause it for
I'm
a
not going to
minute?
pretend that that's not a giant escape hatch. It acts in practice as a giant escape hatch.
All right. Madan asked me to stop and probably just dropped out of the stream.
I think he clicked something else.
Right. All right. Yeah. I think one of the things is that Ben is saying that. All right, Madan is back. All right. You seem to have kicked yourself out. Can you hear us, Madan?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right.
Do you wanna just pause it for a moment?
Yeah. I did pause it.
Okay. It seems as though Ben isn't arguing for compatibilism. He's arguing for actually libertarian free will there, because an uncaused decision maker is indeed an example of contracausal, contrary to the laws of physics, free will, right? And as Alex points out, that does sound a bit difficult to imagine because it means that there's an uncaused cause, and furthermore, a uncaused decision maker, well, it doesn't make sense. So that applies both to theism and atheism, but he's not arguing for compatibilism, which is that you are your soul, you are your brain. So I just want to revise that because I thought that's what he's going towards. Because when he initially said, "Why are you breaking down the soul, the self, into these fragments? Into these the external causes?" When in reality, that is you. The idea that he actually accused Alex of looking too deep into it, and you know what I mean. That you shouldn't look at yourself as these other things beyond you. That is you. It seemed like he was trying to say that leave the analysis at that you are your desires. You're identical to your desires, and if you're identical to your desires, that is you. And Alex wants to say that you didn't choose your desires, therefore you are hostage to your desires. If you were born with strong desires for criminality, that was you. If you were, and a person who wasn't born with a strong desire for criminality, rather had the desires for art, intellectualism, philosophy, science, he's lucky. He might be very successful in life or something like that. Whereas somebody who is a propensity towards criminality. So Alex is trying to get at that in the sense that we didn't choose our desires. Ben Shapiro seemed to be saying, what you all are your desires. But then now he goes that when challenged by Alex, that what does theism offer to sustain the idea that yourself is this thing, because you can have that you are yourself, you're identical to yourself. Because you can have that on atheism, and I thought that's what Ben Shapiro would be saying in the sense that he would be defending the case for compatibilism, but he instead now goes to say that you can actually contradict the laws of physics, right? By having an uncaused decision maker, an uncaused cause. And an uncaused cause, as many theists, here's the issue. It contradicts what Shapiro holds elsewhere. Ben
So
Shapiro
the problem is you're becoming a god yourself? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. And furthermore,
uncaused cause is only God, right?
Yeah. And also Ben Shapiro believes in the contingency argument and believes in the Kalam argument that says you can't have an uncaused cause, or you can't have something from nothing. So it's getting a bit muddled there. It contradicts his other commitments.
Right. And there go all those arguments of,
Yes.
contingency and uncaused cause and all those,
Absolutely.
All right. Kelly, you want to add something to it? I think, yeah. Or we should move on then.
Also tends to act as a fundamental principle of faith, right? Again, in every moral realm, right? When you get to the problem of good and evil, right? One of the big questions is, well, how can God allow evil to take place in the world? And the fundamental religious answer, as it has been for thousands of years, is my mind is not God's, which is a giant escape hatch. It also happens to be true from a religious point of view.
So if I may, that there are two sort of escape hatches here. There are two appeals to mystery going on here. And it seems to me that what you're saying is something along the lines of my simple appeal to mystery here is disallowed in the way that you're allowed to appeal to this mystery because I'm the one making the claim. I think that not
because I'm the one making the claim, but because
I'm the one with the burden.
In
the context of this
sorry,
discussion,
I'm missing the who's the you and the who's the I in
yes.
the sense, but yes.
I see what you mean. I'm speaking for myself there.
Sorry.
If in the context of this discussion, this began the subject which I think is the first one you bring up in this video, free will. Here's this thing that I think exists, and on the basis of its existence, think entails the existence of a God, or at least points to the existence of a God. I shouldn't say entail. And then when I say that I don't think that the concept of free will is intelligible, and you say, well, how is it intelligible on atheism? And I say, I'm not sure it is, but it's not on theism either. And you say, well, there's my escape hatch. I can appeal to mystery. I don't think the burden is on me there. I think you were the one who's making the claim that free will does exist, that there is this mysterious property of the universe
actually, that's not
escapes this determined or indetermined dichotomy. And then when I say that this is unintelligible to me, and based on what I see to be fundamentally appeal to a law of logic, suddenly I'm the one making the claim. I'm the one with the burden who has to do the proving.
No, the actual claim that I originally made, if you recall, was a conditional claim.
Mm-hmm.
I did not claim free will exists, therefore God. I claimed if you believe free will exists, it cannot exist in a materialist universe. Now, you say, okay, fine, it doesn't exist in a materialist universe. I don't believe in free will.
Yes.
That's fine. That's totally plausible. As I said right at the top here, I'm not going to prove to you that God exists today. What I am going to say is that the vast majority of people throughout nearly all of human history have believed there is a thing called a self. It is a deciding self that makes these decisions. If you are a person who believes that, you're right. It can't exist in your world. So I'm not saying that it does exist. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're totally right. And all of this is just a series of chemical firings. That's quite plausible. That's fine. What I have said, and this is the argument that hasn't yet been rebutted, is that society does require an extraordinary number of people to believe that they are capable of making decisions for the good or for the bad. Because again, not everybody is you. Not everybody is capable of waking up in the morning, putting one half of their brain on hold, the side that says what I'm doing today doesn't matter, and we are all going to wind up in the cosmic nothingness of space anyway, and the sun's going to explode and eat the Earth. Most people don't function that way. And so a functional society, a society that actually works, relies on people actually believing that their fate is in their hands. And the way that people tend to understand that on a day-to-day level is, I get up in the morning and I make a decision whether I'm taking my kids to school today. I get up in the morning and I decide whether I'm giving charity today. I get up in the morning and I decide whether to go to a job today. Because the truth is that for a huge number of people, and I would say this is true for not virtually all, many, 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 I'd say the majority of people, if they were informed since the time they were small that their decision-making process does not exist, there is no decision to be made. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Those decisions have no moral weight in the universe because the universe has no moral weight. There is no way to create a functional society on the basis of these premises. There may be a Platonic world where philosophers, can think about this in the gardens of their imagination and feel great about it, but that's not actually how society functions. Not for children, not for teenagers, not for adults.
Yes. And we're going to go on and talk about that in the second section. I had free will to ask any of the questions.
Yeah.
If you know, yes. Sorry, I'll go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are 2 points that I'd mention here. One is that what he just pointed out is, let's say that if he thinks that a society cannot operate effectively or in any ordered manner, if a vast majority of them don't believe in free will, then fine, we'll grant him that. But number one, we don't have, since he already mentioned that the existence of free will does not necessarily entail that God exists, therefore people don't have to go to the next step, right? We just want people to be, I'm just granting him that. So if he's saying that we need a vast majority of people to believe in free will, fine, okay, let's give him that. We need a lot of people to believe in free will, but we don't need a vast majority of people to take that next step to believe that, okay, since I believe in free will, then that is not compatible with atheistic worldview, which again, he hasn't demonstrated why it isn't. Then, and therefore I should start following a religion. Because I mean, that if that is how he's trying to,
he said he appealed to mystery.
Yeah,
he said mystery.
Yeah. And I think to that, Alex raised a very good point initially, that why can't I play that card, the card of mystery, and I think again Ben's point is that we need a vast majority of people to believe in free will, which is not compatible with atheism. I don't think that it is incompatible with atheism. But however, if we need people to believe in free will, fine, but we don't need people to make that next jump.
Yeah, so let me quickly say something. You can easily just have on an atheistic or a naturalistic worldview a cost-benefit model of useful fictions, right? And you can say that a free will concept is useful to society. It's morally wrong to deprive society from some sort of free will concept in order to have a functioning society. That the truth of free will be so destructive. The lack of free will, would be so destructive. Let's say Shapiro is correct, that we ought to believe in free will, but you don't need to have any of the rest of the religious baggage, especially when on a cost-benefit analysis, the rest of the religious baggage makes society worse, like, for example, slavery, return of slavery, or certain forms of abortion, or reintroduction of certain penalties. We have successful humanistic, atheistic societies where laws work perfectly well in terms of having a well-functioning, low-crime, extremely well-medicated, extremely good society that are generally very happy, highly educated. So all we just need is one little useful fiction to be maintained, and that can be sold through people like Daniel Dennett, who makes the argument that we do have free will on atheism. It's a compatibilist notion of free will. If that's easily digested by, maybe that has philosophical flaws. Many determinists, like you should see the famous debate between Sam Harris. He's not a philosopher, a professional philosopher, against Daniel Dennett. But even though he's not a professional philosopher, I think he's actually more correct in certain things in this debate, because I do believe that the Dan Dennett version of compatibilist free will isn't the type of free will we want when we try to hold people responsible. I think Sam Harris's type of free will, where we actually want to know whether or not Ted Bundy could have done something different is the more useful one. Not just because it was part of Ted Bundy's brain and his desires, but could Ted Bundy really do something different if he replayed the universe? If he can do something different, then we'll be like, he had an opportunity to do something different, he chose not to. But if he will always, 100% of the time, do the same thing, then it seems as though we do need libertarian, which is contradicting the laws of physics, free will. We can't have libertarian free will, which people like Dennett concede. Therefore, Dennett's version of free will won't work. But Dennett makes the argument that that's not the type of free will we need. And there's somebody called Peter Tses. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Peter Tses or something like that. Yeah, you probably know better in terms of language. Yeah, whatever. Peter makes the. I'm not going to say his last name. Peter makes the argument that, again, in the compatibilist spirit, he makes the argument that the fact that you're an evolved, determined being who has desires, that which through life refashions, reformulates your desires by being informed by those pre-existing desires. In other words, we can change our desires going into the future by the interaction between the brain and the environment. And through these events, it changes ourselves. We can grow, we can expand, we can be better people. And this is, he tries to make the argument that it's neither determinism or indeterminism. There's this kind of middle. I don't know how he does this. He kind of makes the argument that. Well, sorry, I think he leans towards determinism, but it says that it's neither the case that determinism or that you need determinism to be false or indeterminism to be true. It's more so that the fact that your desires can be reprogrammed over time, you might learn something new, is a demonstration of a free reigning decision maker, because you can, for example, go to a drug rehabilitation program, change your habits, grow as an individual, learn those new things, become a more successful individual, and grow throughout time. This is a case for compatibilism, really. Really, all Peter is making an argument for there, I think, is exactly what Dan Dennett is making an argument for, in the sense that you don't need contracausal free will. You don't need to contravene the laws of physics. It's just that as long as you're not being forced by the government, you're not being forced by a person with a gun to your head, and it's your mind doing all the changes, refinements, and given that you've got you have irrational faculties, critical faculties, however determined they are, to retune your existing desires and change it for the better, means you can change freely. Now, is that persuasive? Some people would say even that trajectory of events is determined, and therefore the person who doesn't become that successful person by changing, why did he fail? Well, all of that was determined. All of those events were determined. So it's like a feedback loop. Your desire interacts with the environment changes your desires, and then you grow as a person. But that feedback loop is only as good as your determined events, which includes things that you can't control, which is your initial pre-existing desire. It's like a domino effect. And some people's dominoes fall differently. And as a result, you may not grow, but what caused that? Well, a pre-existing set of deterministic events. The person who did grow and became this fabulous, successful entrepreneur, he went from poverty to, for him, it was also a chain of deterministic events. So how well that works is dependent entirely upon deterministic events.
Right.
That might be reality. But maybe we should stay silent, like Shapiro is saying, and not sell them that. He wants to sell people a mythology. Well, why do we need to sell the mythology about gods and souls and churches and all the other extra stuff? Why don't we just sell them the simple mythology of Dan Dennett is saying, and just say, you know what, this is good enough free will. We won't highlight the objection against compatibilist free will that much. We just sell them that part. What's wrong with that?
Right. So one thing I'm trying to understand here, right, and all that you have spoken about, that not telling about determinism, right? So the question I have here is, what if everybody comes to know that there's no free will, right? Would there be a chaos, or would the deterministic universe run its own course?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a good question. I mean, sorry, you want to complete?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kelly. So that's
I mean,
what I
yeah,
mean. That's the thing I was thinking, that if if determinism is true, so far it hasn't caused any chaos, and in fact, what we see is that, in a sense, order is increasing. Perhaps, probably, if you can say, things are going more peaceful. Not too many people are plundering. We are able to provide, good food to even the poorest, from what we were able to do 300 years back or even 200 years back, and all those things. People's lives have become better. There are very few people who are suffering greatly due to illness and all those things. So you run this course throughout, history, and if, say, determinism is true, why would people coming to know about it would change its course? Is the question. Is kind of baffles me, basically.
yeah. I mean, yeah. The problem with his statement is, one way of dealing with his question is that, no, even if a vast majority of people stop believing in free will, everything would still continue to happen as it was determined. So if people were still, it was still, the chain of cause and effect still meant, but still wanted people to, wake up in the morning and continue doing everything else that they were doing in their lives, then they would still continue doing all that things, just like Alex does it. Alex
Exactly.
does not
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
in free will.
Exactly.
He continues to do it.
Yeah. Let me say
Yeah.
something though. What would happen if tomorrow everybody just realized that they don't have free will and they genuinely believed it? That would also be a determined event, right? Because we can,
Yes.
determinism is true. That event of realization will also be
Be
another,
determined, right?
People,
yeah, another
people
another
who will believe,
yeah.
people who will stop believing in free will stop believing in, because of that determined event.
Yeah. That will be another domino chip on the sequence of events. Yeah, but the impact of it, what Shapiro isn't advocating, he's not saying that. He's not saying that if people know about this, then um, if people don't know about this, if people don't know
There'll be
that,
chaos.
yeah,
He's
no,
not
no,
saying that. You're saying, right?
no. I'm saying that he's saying that there will be chaos, but he's not trying to say that it won't be determined, right? He's not saying that. He's saying rather, if atheism true and everything is determined, or it's indeterministic, right? Whatever it is, he's saying the knowledge of the fact that we don't have free will, right? So it could be the knowledge of the fact that we don't have free will because on atheism, indeterminism is true, and therefore we don't have free will. So it doesn't require determinism, right? It just means knowledge of the fact that we don't have free will is going to cause chaos, right? And he might agree if Alex argues that determinism is true, atheism is true, determinism is true, therefore we don't have free will. He might agree that if people woke up tomorrow, then if there is chaos, that chaos will be determined. Yeah. But it's still he's objecting to the fact that there shouldn't be chaos, whether it's determined or not determined, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
His problem. Yeah, I
So,
agree.
Yeah.
I see your
there's a
point.
problem. So
Yeah.
let me point out a problem with that. For example, what if this realization that free will doesn't exist needs a certain kind of mentality, a certain kind of philosophical thinking that, let's say, most of the time, once a person reaches that level, that also includes, let's say, it would make that person think like Alex. Now, if that means, if this is what happens every time, if these are the prerequisites of a person to stop believing in free will, then he would act like Alex, and similarly, and therefore would live a life like Alex, and this would not lead to chaos.
Maybe.
Do you understand
That's,
what I'm saying?
well, here's the thing. I agree that would be a good example of it doesn't lead to chaos because they might act like Alex. However, they've done empirical studies on this, by the way. Somebody called Brian Earp, he's a psychologist, I think, or he's training to be a psychologist. Him and other associates, they've done an experiment, taking people and getting them to believe that they don't have free will. And when you do expose them to, I can't remember the methodology, I can't remember the tools, but I do remember the results. So you may want to look into it. There might be some deficiencies with the experiment. questionable assumptions being made in the concepts and so on. But when you do train people to believe that they don't have any free will, what happens is that they actually become less and less feeling as though they are responsible for their behavior. So that does happen. What Shapiro is saying has some experimental data to support it, in the sense that those who believe that they are not responsible for their actions, that they don't have free will, they're entire puppets of physics, puppets of the universe, they felt less motivated to take control of situations. And they also felt less responsible for certain things that occurred. In order to look deeply into that, I will suggest, I'll put the link up maybe at the end, I'll look for it. I do remember one of the main authors was Brian Earp. So if you look at Brian Earp, anybody wants to find it, Brian D. Earp, last name spelled E-A-R-P, and just type in something like psychology of free will and its believing that there is no free will and its implications on human behavior. And it does cause that sort of undesirable effect, you could say, to at least in those limited experimental circumstances. Maybe you can't generalize beyond that, etc. So it does seem as though it might do that. And there's some other evidence showing, it's called something called attribution bias, where when people try to take credit for good things that occur to them or desirable things by attributing it to their own merits and behavior, but when something bad happens, they attribute it to the environment. They externalize and they say, so if you pass an exam, you're like, oh, it's because of me. So I'm really clever. I'm clever. I'm brain. I studied really hard. I'm really intelligent. I'm really good in biology. It's my hard work did it. But if you fail an exam, people are more biased. It's a cognitive bias. People are more biased and willing to explain it away by other factors beyond them. Like the examiner was not fair, or, that day I was tired and somebody came and delayed this or that. External factors. It's called attribution bias. Now, that obviously doesn't tell you about how they feel when the free will doesn't exist, but it gives you some prima facie background knowledge. And the experiment by Brian Earp may confirm it, that it seems as though it would be a good hypothesis that if you don't feel responsible for certain things, you're more willing to externalize it, and so on. You try to look for a get-out clause. People are inherently willing to absolve themselves of culpability. And if you get rid of free will, people might be even more willing to absolve themselves of culpability. And those experiments do support something like that. So unfortunately, yeah.
So the evidence is in support of Ben Shapiro in this case, right? So I have Madan put up Brian Earp's faculty page over here, right?
Okay, great. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't support the notion there'll be complete chaos. Maybe not. But it's just maybe.
I think you can pick out a few shortcomings of this thought experiment or this experiment, because we still need to see the conditions and the whole methodology that's being used in there, right? But it's possible, right? I mean, I think it's not a conclusive evidence in support of Ben, but it is possible. We need to check.
It leans towards that direction, right? And I think even Brian Earp says it might be better not. The weird thing about this discovery of lacking free will, it might be better not telling everybody about it. He actually makes that argument that it might lead to deleterious effects. The extent of which we don't know. It might not mean that we're just going to wake up and go, oh, I don't have free will, so I'm going to go murdering everybody. But it might mean some people might have it might reduce our ambitions, it might reduce our motivations, it might make us less willing to do things.
So one thing I would like to point out here, Madan, this is in this study, one of the weaknesses that I can see here is this is an immediate effect of something that is so hard-grained into our psyche as of now. What if this thing is run for maybe a generation or 10 years or something like that? I think it's going to normalize, because initially that phase you'll have to go through that bump, right? And probably that bump itself is going to be deterministic itself, pretty much, right? I mean, that's how that determinism is going to take care of that. How everybody is going to adjust to that fact, pretty much.
Yeah. It could very well be. It could also be that this experiment just takes into account of telling people that you don't have free will. It doesn't take. What if you teach somebody that there is no free will, but you're a bit more optimistic about it, right? You give them the Daniel Dennett magic, right? The compatibilist potion to heal the wounds, right?
Oh,
And you tell
also,
people, yeah, and maybe then it works. Maybe then it won't reduce your spirit that much, and maybe initially it will dampen, but if you keep repeating it and you keep giving the Daniel Dennett compatibilist spell, it might still maintain a sense of free will.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, I agree to that point. All right. All right, Kelly, you have anything to add here?
No, I think you were mentioned a weakness, pointed out a good weakness. It's a fair point, but I'm going to look into this research as well and see if there are some blatant, because I think Martin would be aware that uh, I'm not being too critical, but I'm just saying that psychology, and particularly moral psychology, the experiments done on moral psychology, there have been a very low ratio of them being repeatable. Yeah,
Yeah.
replicable.
So yeah,
So they are
that's
notorious in that manner. In
yeah.
that way.
So absolutely. I'm not saying this is conclusive evidence. I'm saying it tilts the favor towards like the few
Yeah,
experiments that have
fair
been
enough.
done are in positive
That's
affirmation of Shapiro's hypothesis. Does it reach
That's
the
fair.
threshold of certainty? Absolutely not, because it needs to be replicated. And let me just say, in terms of psychological research, absolutely, there's like 50% of all psychological studies have not been replicated. But that doesn't mean there aren't some psychological studies that hasn't been, because there's a remaining 50% that has been. So we have a crisis in psychology of poor replication and many other things like p-values and poor statistical controls and thresholds, lots of stuff like that. But we should not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is also many good replicated studies for certain domains and topics under the umbrella of psychology, and we should hold on to them. Is this one of them? I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I don't think it has been replicated that many times. Maybe it has been replicated more than once, maybe, but this is very new. But at this moment, Shapiro is winning, but not the grand thrust of his claim that society will descend into chaos. No. And everything that Philo has already said and I have said, because these experiments just show what happens immediately. It might just be a matter of low self-esteem once you learn it. What if you give this information in a different way, in a different manner, different presentation over time, with different toolkits, educational toolkits, with different ideas about different versions of philosophical free will, like the compatibilist definition, and say, actually, some philosophers think you can have free will even on a deterministic universe. Does that have an impact, and how does that have an impact? And if that's the case, then it might have a different impact over time.
All right. Shall we? Then we are getting feedback from your side. Yes. Shall we close the stream here, or what do you want to do? Run
Yeah,
a
I
little
think
bit. I think we have run about for 2 hours, right?
I think it's about time now. So I think it's quite. We have covered a good amount of video. Luckily, we were able to do at least. How many minutes have we covered, Pyro?
It's about 2 hours, 7 minutes, roughly.
No. How many minutes have we covered
okay. Sorry,
in terms of
my
the
bad.
video?
It's about 23 minutes so far.
Okay,
So
I think that's a
I
good
think we are
chunk.
good. We are good.
Yeah, we have covered a
Basically,
good chunk.
we can cover maybe it in 3 parts, probably.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. So I think the 2 hour stream is enough for people's attention span. So I think we should close it here. The callers, the people who want to join the stream, probably I think we've already spent 2 hours. So I think let's keep it off for the next stream.
Shall we just say hi hello to whoever wants to, or shall we
I'm
just
not
leave
sure. I
it
mean,
here?
what would be the point
Right,
of saying hi, hello? Because
right, right. And
we
I
can say
mean, at
hi
least
to them
let them
right
come
now,
and say
but I just
hi
say
and
that we
bye.
can take them on in the later stream.
Muhammad wants to come on.
Hmm?
Sorry?
Does Muhammad want to come on?
He wants to, right?
Yeah, he wants to, but I think I'm not sure if he because we had a discussion in the comment section, and I'm sure he wants to discuss it on this particular topic. And I think I want to keep this particular video just free of any distractions. Let's keep it for on the review of this debate. So my suggestion is just defer taking on the callers today.
All
Sorry
right.
to the callers, but we do take on callers. So just join us next time, and probably we're going to take it on.
I know because if we kind of avoid, I think I've seen this person's comments, and he was a little bit standoffish, wasn't he? Start challenging you guys, lest you be accused of not following through and or be of cowardice, lest you be accused of cowardice. You know,
I think we shouldn't worry about it.
And they didn't want to take me on.
We can definitely take him on, but not today. I mean, this is just my suggestion because I just want to make the stream.
No, what we can
on the
do is
topic
we can cut the stream to that point and put that any conversation as a separate video. We can do that. That's an option. I'm saying.
Let's do
All
that.
right.
Unless
you okay? Do we have a green signal from you?
You're asking me?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I just don't want to.
Well, I mean, we can always trim that part and put it as a separate video, maybe, if we want. That's.
I guess it's. You guys are okay with that.
Let's first ask if Vakas is still here. Vakas, if you're still here and want the link, then.
But we're going to restrict him to discuss today's topics.
Right. Sure. All right. All right. Cosmic is here.
No, Cosmic, you're not welcome.
Cosmic is not welcome.
Why would you make such an assumption?
You're welcome, Cosmic.
Why would you make an assumption? You're an atheist. Atheists don't make assumptions.
Where are you? Where are thou, Cosmic? Yeah, I don't see you. And Vakas, if you want, do join in, but then you'll have to talk. You'll have to stay on the topic.
If this is going to be a different language or debate, then I need to go. Unfortunately, yeah. If we can, I hope we can have it in English so I can participate.
I'll absolutely. This is an English stream. Anybody who joins will have to converse in English. There won't be Hindi. There won't be any Hindi or Urdu allowed. Basically, if anybody wants to talk in Hindi or Urdu,
sounds like apartheid.
Right.
I'm just joking.
Okay, who's joining? Anybody joining? We have quite a few viewers right now. Audience, we have a huge audience watching us right now. Martin, what do you say?
700 people.
700 people are watching us right now.
7 means the reason we can't see actually it's more than 700. The reason we can't see the zeros is too big to fit into the screen, so it just says 7. It represents infinite.
We can't rule about it. It's all deterministic.
Yes.
It's all determined, right?
It's not my fault. Yep.
It's nobody's fault. We were doomed for it. We're doomed to have only 6 viewers so far.
Major Reynolds says
who commented on his weight?
Major Reynolds basically has, he knows now we found something about him, right? When I mentioned the 6 and the millions of zeros, it just reminded of his weight. That's a Freudian slip, Major Reynolds. You've slipped now. You've told us about your insecurities.
Well, who knows? He might be a ultra marathon runner, probably. All right, Cosmic, welcome.
So where is this? Hello, where is this Muhammad?
I don't know. I said, Vakas, if you want to join, please do join.
Maybe he left.
But you'll be
Maybe he left when I mentioned that we're not going to take orders today. Maybe he left at that time. Yeah.
All right, no worries. Vakas, you join in next time, probably. Right.
But wait, didn't
Okay.
Wakas just say, give me the link just about 5 minutes ago?
Right, he did
Yeah,
say about, yeah, about 10
but
minutes
after
back.
that,
Yeah.
I
But
mentioned that maybe you are not going to take callers, so maybe
Oh,
that's why.
no.
yeah, he might have left. Also, he might not be happy with the stipulation you guys
Yeah.
had regarding
Yeah, about the topic, about restricting.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think
we
he'd
are
be
going
too
to
thrilled
restrict
about
him.
that.
I'm going to restrict him to the topic today.
What is the topic that he wanted to talk about? What's the topic he wanted to talk about?
I think the topic he wanted to discuss was more about the interpretation of the Quran and how it can be misinterpreted because every word has multiple meanings.
Is that
Uh,
it?
Is he
yeah,
the
I'm
same
pretty sure
Muhammad
that's
Waqas Khan who has joined other streams as well? Other like
yes.
Muslims and other.
The one who has critical thinking and critical thinker underneath his name.
All right.
But to give props to the guy, I know because I often have these streams on the background. I think he initially talked to Haris 4 months ago, and that
Mm,
discussion got quite nasty
yeah,
nearer to the end. But he's still quite how do I say it, willing to talk to others. So I've
Upbeat
seen him
about
on.
talking
Haris
to atheists.
and
Yeah.
Haris actually apologized to him later on. Actually,
Did he?
yes, yeah, he did.
No,
He after
never
uh,
heard or seen
no,
those
no, I
things.
have watched that
Yeah.
video because I know he actually after a few months, Waqas actually called back on his channel and Haris mentioned that are you that same guy, and he said yes, and he apologized to the guy that he said that okay, sorry, I realized Haris said that he realized that he was unreasonable to him last time, and and then you stopped, and he mentioned that you didn't join for a while, and he didn't get an opportunity to apologize, so he did. I've watched that stream.
I mean, it could be because Vikas makes for some very nice clippable moments at times, right?
I'm
So
not
it
sure.
could be.
I mean, we
Yeah.
cannot judge
I think I think our
anyone's
policy
intentions,
is our
but
our
Haris did.
policy. Sorry.
It seemed that Haris was actually apologizing for truly apologizing.
Yeah,
It was a
okay.
sincere apology. It
Specific
seemed
to
like
this stream, right? I think there's some interference.
yeah, Mahadan's.
Uh, yeah.
We get feedback from
So
Mahadan's side.
to be honest, I really did like
we are
it, and I
asking.
like the fact.
Sorry,
Yes,
Cosmic. We
go
are
on, go on.
asking our 700 viewers or 600 viewers to donate
Yeah, we lost
some,
100.
some good mic systems and stuff to us, right?
Yeah.
No,
Major
really,
Reynolds.
we could do away with some.
Major Reynolds. If you can donate £1,000, we will make content that is whatever you want, really. Topics, obviously intellectual topics.
Yes,
But
please.
whatever.
Yeah, thank you for specifying that.
Specify
Whatever
exactly.
you
I mean,
want.
not everything. I don't want to be on TikTok now, but yeah. But
Or
whatever you want.
OnlyFans.
Yes. Or I was trying to avoid that. Yes. Or OnlyFans.
I think
I don't think
next
Philo
time,
has problems with it. Philo's okay
next
with it.
next time Saeed Bhai comes in, I will have to ask him if you want to come. You'll have to donate 3 good, nice, top of the line,
You know,
mics.
we're gonna we're gonna bring up the verse from Quran, which is whenever you want to talk to the Prophet, donate some money. So we're gonna
Oh
bring up that
yes,
verse and we're gonna say
yes.
that
Oh
this is
yeah,
the same thing applies. If you want to talk to us, please donate some money to the channel.
exactly. Right, right. Cosmic, sorry, I stopped you. Go ahead, please. What
Yeah.
did you listen to the stream?
Yeah, I listened to most of it. I did jump out for a bit because there was like this superstar stream going on Mufti Yasir's channel. So Sabur joined. I think for the Sabur and Kaisar both joined. And then our friend Skeptic Agnostic also joined. There was a really nice. I actually missed part of that conversation as well. So I'm going to watch it whenever Mufti Yasir clips it. Because he tends to do that. But
Right.
yeah, I watched this one, and then close to the end, where you guys are supporting Ben Shapiro by citing a particular study that may or may not be replicated in the future. I'm quite appreciative of that. It shows the intellectual honesty you guys have because uh, on some streams, regardless of the validity of the argument that your side is presenting, you'll always support the person on your side. But like so far, I think Cosmic does get him on a later point as you continue watching that video. But so far, the way you've acknowledged that Ben has a strong argument is quite nice. I really like that.
I think, yeah, I mean, that point, but I think what I realized, and this is my take, and maybe it's a little biased as well, because see, our perspective is very strong as well, pretty much. You know, I have been an atheist for 25 years now, right? So, but what I realized was that uh, uh, Alex talks slightly slower, but has more meaty points in his, conversations. Whereas Ben, and this is my opinion, subjective, you may or may not agree with this, by the way, but when Ben talks, he talks fast, but you have to, it's not as thick and very, but this is my opinion, and I'm saying I'm probably biased in my assessment here. Oh, right.
Hello.
Sorry. Welcoming Wakas. Wakas, how are you? So we're gonna have, since it's an English stream, we're gonna converse in English. How are you doing, first of all?
Fine.
You're okay with English? Perfectly fine.
I will try my level best. Actually, you know that actually my study in Islamic ideology, epistemology, I just read Urdu books or somehow Arabic books. So I'm not pretty sure that I can talk in English. Some
Not a problem.
words
You see,
in
that's
Islamic ideology.
Waqas, do you know
English
Arabic?
should be a hindrance. That's perfectly fine. We are appreciative of you coming here, and that's perfectly fine. If you stumble here and there, we'll try to. Why I'm saying that, because Mahadan is whenever we stream with Mahadan, our streams are in English. Khali and myself and Cosmic, we all understand Urdu and Hindi, right? So perfectly fine. But as a protocol, we are going to maintain that we converse in English, so
I will
that
try my level
Madan,
best.
sure,
I,
sure, not a
I,
problem,
I
not a
just
problem. If you stumble here and there, we'll explain what you mean. We'll try to, at least. Okay?
okay. So first of
And
all,
I think just to,
all of you are
just as a suggestion,
Hold on,
just as
Wakas. Kelly
just
saying
as a
something.
suggestion, I mean, if you're comfortable in Hindi or Urdu, you can also join our Urdu only stream. Now that would be, I think you'll be a bit more comfortable there. You'll
Yeah.
be
If you
able to
do
present your
that,
arguments
then
in a
you can
better way.
join it
Just
next
a
time when we
suggestion.
are having a Hindi Urdu stream, right? Because we then also do that, but those are less frequent, right?
Yeah.
Our Hindi Urdu streams are less frequent, maybe twice a month, but we'll try to do more and more of those, depending on how much time Khali and I find, basically, right?
okay. First of all, I just want to know that all of you are atheists.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Agnostic.
so no, agnostic or atheist. I just confused.
Agnostic atheist.
Atheist. Yeah.
Okay, agnostic atheists. Okay, so
Yeah, if you want, we can
from
refine
where?
that, but for practical purposes, assume
No
that.
problem. Okay, so I want to know that from where you drive your epistemology, ideology.
Your brain, reason.
Okay, so reasoning. Okay, no problem. So I can understand. So you talk.
Before you finish, Wakas, I thought we were going to try and restrict the conversation to the topic of the video.
Right. Yes. Sorry.
Particularly in today's
Wakas.
video, I think we do want to restrict the topic to this.
I have a question regarding what we've done in this review, the topics in the review, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know what was the topic.
So yeah, the topic was, is religion good for society?
Well, that kind of was the topic, but the
But have you actually
subcategories.
watched the stream? Yeah.
Yeah, subcategories
Actually-
of the topic. The subcategories
Actually-
regarding the topic. Yeah, subcategories
Okay.
regarding the topic. 1 minute.
Okay,
Wakas.
actually, this is some kind of a general statement that
Yeah.
is a religion good for society. So, for example, if you talk with
No,
some
wait,
Indian,
Sorry, Vakas,
Mahathir,
hold
you
on.
were saying something.
Maden was saying that there is a subcategory of this topic, is religion good for society? That's the topic, but we were reviewing that actually video basically
Yeah.
between
So Wakas,
that
in the
debate.
video itself, let me just tell him this. In the video itself, what they talked about, because it's such a broad topic covering many different areas, it could cover, for example, political philosophy, it could cover psychological well-being, it could cover anything from laws. It could, yeah. In this particular video, what was being covered so far was free will, the epistemological case to support free will, the epistemological case or ontological case, you might want to call it, to support morality, reason and logic, and so on, etc. Right?
okay,
So the religious person tried to make the argument that that atheism or naturalism or materialism, whichever you want to call it, cannot support those things. But he also made the admission that you can't make a logical or rational case for theism, and therefore it's even hard to support on theism. So his argument kind of felt a bit weird in that regard. So he was just trying to show that it's not compatible with naturalism. That's about
actually,
it.
okay, Madin, actually, the problem is here. If you talk about free will, what type of free will? For example, if someone want to rape someone, and he says, okay, that's my free will. So how can you explain free will? I want to listen from you. How you can categorize free will? Because everyone knows free will. Oh, that's a good thing. Oh, that's good for me. But how can you explain it? I want to listen that.
Right. So it really depends on which type of free will, as you mentioned, that you're talking about. So when you say how can you explain it, it depends what sort of free will you're subscribing to, right? So in the history of philosophy, there's been different types of free will and in being defined by different philosophers. So a libertarian type of free will, libertarians make the argument that, for example, there's contra-causal free will, that you can contradict the laws of nature. So the laws of physics, as a person, what happens is that you can, if you think the universe is determined, your thoughts and feelings and desires are caused by your brain, and your brain is caused by neurochemistry. Neurochemistry is caused by predecessor events. All the way goes back to the Big Bang. On that view, contra-causal free will would say you have some sort of libertarian agency, that you are not bound by this chain of events, and you are not caused by a predetermined event. So this is kind of the notion that some theists, not all theists, believe in, that you can have a libertarian free will. They would presuppose a form of soul, and the soul is not subject to the materialistic events of the universe. It's this immaterial spirit that rises above the laws of physics and can cause decisions without being, as Ben Shapiro made the argument, uncaused in and of itself. That's a libertarian version of free will, right?
Okay.
Is that the type of free will you believe in?
Okay, wait a minute. No. I have a question. Actually, I want to understand.
Hello, Vakas, sorry. This is not how the conversation should be. So you asked a question to Mahadan. He responded to you in great detail. Now he has a counter question. What is your definition of free will? He gave you in great detail what is meant by free will.
Okay, I am telling that.
Yeah. Right.
Free will.
I
am talking about free
and
will.
then elaborate, right? That's the right way to do it, right?
Okay. If we specified, because I am a Muslim and I believe on Islam. So if I talk about Islam, then we have two type of moralities. One is
No, not
and
about
we.
morality.
I am talking. Wait a minute. I just want to finish.
What was the question? I'm just wondering.
Because
Madan, can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Okay, free will.
What is the type of free will that you believe in? For example, I gave the type of free will that most people believe in, which is that you can contradict the laws of physics, meaning if you play the universe again, in that specific situation, you will cause a different event. So let's say today I'm speaking to you, Akas, I'm talking to you. If we rewind the universe, play it again from this morning, all the events will unfold in the exact same way, right? So, and I will speak to you again. I'll say the same things because these are all predetermined by the laws of physics, so by materialistic events. Now, the type of free will that a lot of people believe in is a libertarian free will. What that is, that I could have done otherwise. So today's day could have happened differently. So if I could have if you rewind the universe, then I could have actively chosen not to talk to you, Waqas. I could have said, no, I don't want to talk to you. But that's what libertarians believe. So are you a libertarian? Do you think if the universe was replayed from this morning, that you will you could make a different decision than you have today?
No, actually, you know that our epistemology, especially Islamic epistemology, I will talk in that domain. Sure, I can understand your conversation. For example, if you talk about the free will, I just want to tell you from the Islamic perspective, just listen first. Actually, here's echo at your side. Thank you, Madin, brother. In Islamic epistemology, God give us free will. Rather you accept it or you not accept it.
I think,
If you
Waqas, you're
accept it,
going round and round. He's asking for which definition you believe, right?
Yes. Simple question.
Simple
Which free will?
question. It's a
Which
you
free will do
see
you believe in?
you. I would request you, please do not waste time.
yes,
Go to
I
the
am again
definition.
telling
Give him
you,
a definition.
I
Give him a definition, and then
am
say
again
the
telling
talking
you,
points, whatever you
I,
have,
I,
right?
I again explaining you, wait a minute. Actually, we are all bound. We think that we have our own free will. For example, if we believe some ideology, like you people believe some ideology, then you are bounding to that ideology. You are thinking that you have a free will. That's your free will. You have to choose whatever your mind thinks. For example, I believe that Islam is a perfect religion, and there is a creator who creates us. So that's my personal free will that I accept it from my arguments, from my logics, or whatever, everything included. And so how your perspective, your logics, you think that I believe that there is not a God. I believe that science is better than religion, or whatever your beliefs are. So if that's your free will, you want to join that side or this side. This is how it works, I think.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I think it seemed to me that you contradicted yourself in your explanation. First, you said that we believe that there is free will. We think that there is free will. And then you also said that we do have free will. It seemed that you mentioned that, you know, it seemed that you were implying that we think that we have free will, but we actually don't. But then you ended up saying that we do have we use our free
Yeah.
will to believe our
Let me,
religion. So I'm
yeah,
not
let me
sure
just,
what you were trying to say over there. I think,
yeah.
Waqas, I think you need to maybe listen to the stream that we just did. Since we have today's stream is a bit more specific. We don't want to go off topic. Usually, we do allow callers to have a more free flow discussion. Let's have a discussion on on our Urdu Hindi stream on that.
No, for
And hopefully on that day,
okay,
probably
I
we'll have a bit more free flow discussion. I
sure,
think
sure.
I suggest.
I'm just going. I'm just going. I just want to say that, for example, if you believe something, or you are thinking that your whatever your perspective is, that's a very well in front of any religion. So it means you are following that thing. So that's your free will. You are doing that. No one is forcing you to do that.
But can I just say
But
something?
after
Because it seems as though you are a compatibilist. That's it's called a compatibilist definition of free will. That if somebody's not, if a human being isn't putting a gun to your head, if an institution isn't forcing you, brainwashing you, and you make a decision based on your own desires, motivations, feelings, using your rational faculties, and you make a decision, that is a very good version of that would be a demonstration of what you think is free will. So as long as nobody forces you, doesn't put a gun to your head and say, eat the banana. If you go and eat the banana because you wanted to, you thought about the pros and cons of eating a banana, that is free will. Is that correct?
Actually, 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 I want to say that that's your perspective, that someone forced you or like that. But I think that if that's how it works, then
No,
you all
no,
are not sitting here.
I think
I'm not
Madin, I
Wakas, 1
don't
minute.
think Wakas, I don't
Yeah,
think
Wakas,
Mahadin understands. Oh, sorry, Wakas understands it's the kinds of free will that we're talking about, like the libertarian, the
Yeah.
compatibilist free will, I don't think he understands the concept yet. Wakas, I think
Actually,
as I said,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think we should
Actually,
look
if we talk in if we talk in Urdu or Hindi, then I will be
better.
comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you can join our Hutu in this room. I think we can have more
Yeah,
fruitful
I
discussion
think
over there.
Wakas, what I'll suggest you, I'll request you rather, and it's good that you came here. We all appreciate it. What I'll say is, if you get a chance and if you're interested, do watch this stream, right? And then maybe if you see what our point is, maybe you'll be able to come back next time and have we'll be able to express probably better. You probably are still and it's just that maybe we are not understanding. But what the kind of topic that we have discussed is these libertarian free will, and then maybe compatibilism and all those concepts. So if you're aware of that, that'll be good. Maybe just try to see if you can learn those things first.
Yeah, there's usually three popular versions of free will that all religions, philosophers worldwide, West and the East, have talked about. They fall into three categories. One is a compatibilist, two, libertarian, and the third one is a very vague version of the two. It's like, but I would say mainly is I would actually say there's four versions of free will, and one of them is that you can't have free will at all. But that's not really a definition of free will.
No, for example,
sorry,
Madin, I understand you when you talk about compatible. Actually, the problem is that that's a best I think approach for a philosophers to understand that how you have a free will. For example, you came here not with a free will. You go from here when you die. That's not your free will. So when you came here, so after that you have to choose something. If you have some options, then you can approach something which is good for you. For example, if someone says that's truth, that's lie, then you can understand if there is no lie, then how can you conclude that this is truth? So how it works. So I think compatible is better than other things to understand. Yeah, of course. If someone prove, for example, I want to complete my sentence, then I will go because maybe I'm not following you. For example, if you say that we think ourselves, then everyone have to prove that he is 100% right. He is absolute right. He do never his opinion is every time his opinion is better. So if you can't prove it, then we have to compare. That's simple. It how works.
Oh, okay, Wakas. I think as Philo mentioned,
Wakas,
there is something you can look into this topic, and you can look into the different kinds of free will concepts that exist among philosophers. We can also have that discussion that you want to have in Urdu and Hindi once we have that stream. And over there, of course, you said that you'll be more comfortable. So yeah,
it's comfortable for me. So when you have, can you mention any particular?
We don't have it planned right now, but we'll probably have one in the next week or the next one after that.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
You can subscribe to our channel. Okay, Wakas. Thank you very
Chaliye,
much.
Waqas
Take
bhai,
care.
yeah,
Goodbye.
thanks for dropping by. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, no, we'll try and have a conversation whenever we get a chance, but at least so that we get on the same ground, right, of understanding each other. If you rewind this stream and just listen to it, you'll get a pretty good idea as to what Mahaden was talking about, right? And then maybe next time when you come, when we continue this review, you'll get a another opportunity to explain what your point was, pretty much, right? Does it sound
Okay,
good?
okay.
Does it sound good?
Yeah, yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you very much for dropping by, right?
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, shall we close the stream then? Anybody?
Yes, I think we're almost
All
touching
right.
the 3 hour mark, so I think it's
Unless Cosmic Inquirer has gonna
yeah.
take the mantle from Wakas and prove the existence of free will suddenly. Cosmic, it's all up to you now. You are the torchbearer of Wakas, his spirit. He is giving you
I'm probably the
willpower.
worst person to defend this topic. But I had a suggestion, but I think we'll just talk to him next time. It's fine. Then they will do in these streams. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just joking, by the way. Yeah.
All right. Cosmic, any closing remarks you want to make, and then we'll go around and then close the stream with the closing remarks.
Yeah, nothing other to add. Just excited for the review of the next part because there's a particular part. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the entire debate, but I was watching it during the premiere. There's a point where Alex gets Ben to admit uh, the the
The
flaw in yeah the relative and objective
relativistic
morality
morality,
claim.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
that was
I
really
think that's
nice.
the home run,
Highlight.
basically, right? That's the
Yep.
home run, basically. Right. I did listen to that part, and then
So
I
Alex,
commented on the
so
video
Alex
as well.
gets Ben Shapiro to accept it, or Alex accepts something.
No.
Alex gets Ben
See,
Shapiro.
Oh, nice.
Ben makes a certain point about. I think this is a very simple thing, and we've been saying about this all through. And I'm just not gonna rant about it, but there are certain problems with Old Testament, or whatever you call Hebrew
Mm,
Bible, right?
mm,
And it's regarding the slavery. It was permitted at some point, and this is the same argument we make about Islam as well, right? That
yeah.
slavery was permitted then, and then it's so do you consider it bad or not? And Ben says no, I consider it bad, and that's where this thing happens. He says then you are holding on to this relativistic morality,
Relative.
basically, right?
Right.
And but yeah, I think we're going to touch upon that in one of the later streams, probably, right? But yeah, I think all in all, it was one of very decent debates. I think we've in past few months we have seen pretty good debates between um, atheist interlocutors and theistic, even the ones with Aaron Fasser and Mark Oppenheimer. One was pretty decent. I think from the atheistic side, it was pretty decent. And our review was, if nobody has listened to it and is still with us and hasn't seen our streams, go listen to our review of what is the title, if anybody remembers? Islamic morality versus atheistic morality. What was that, the title? But it should say Aaron Fasser's opening statement
No,
or
it's
Mark
it's
Oppenheimer's
it's not about
opening.
morality. The title you mentioned is for the Haris Sultan versus
Right, right, right.
Gantar.
I'm getting confused here. Right, right. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to go and listen to those streams, they're pretty good debates. So the one that I'm talking about is Muhammad Hijab and Hamzat Sources versus Aaron Fasser and Mark Oppenheimer. And there are quite a few other different streams as well. I mean, you can listen to. There are countless. I think we have what, probably close to 50 or so videos now on our channel, and so much content, so many debates that we have reviewed so far. I think it should be a treat for anybody who wants to get to listen to some really thought-provoking conversations or reviews, right? So I think I've been talking all through. Closing remarks, please.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a good review so far. There's a lot of meat into these topics, and it's hard to assess. I mean, the general topic is religion good for us, or something like that, or still useful, whatever. Technically, you may as well just say that's such a broad topic, as Wakas pointed out, that you could do anything under the banner of that to prove that it's good for us. But at the same time, so it can be a general discussion about the truthfulness of religion, could be the general discussion about morality of religion, could be a general discussion about the laws, anything pertaining to religion. It's so broad. You may as well just say discuss religion. Is it good
Martin,
or bad?
can I just interrupt you for a second? And I'm just seconding your point that it's such a broad topic, and one of the fundamental problems is that the definition of word religion and how do you define it. Basically, it's such a how do you define? I think we did talk about it before the stream, like briefly, but that's one
Yeah.
of the points. That's why it gets so muddled, basically.
Right. No, yeah, I'll emphasize that in a second. But just exactly what you were saying, it's such a broad thing. It's broad precisely because you're talking about, is it good in terms of a political system? Is it good because of its moral laws? Is it good because it gives us meaning and purpose? Is it good because free will, or it gives you free will? Is it good because heaven and hell? Is it good because following the truth is good and religion is truth and therefore it's good? It needs this kind of comprehensive analysis of all the religious conversations that's ever happened. And it needs maybe a sociological analysis of how political systems function. Then you got to define things properly, like whether laws are more effective in a religious country compared to a non-religious country. You have the methodologies in place to control for variables, so you can do a multivariate analysis and demonstrate there's a correlation or causation between one law and the decrease of undesirable behavior under a religious system versus an atheistic system. It basically means all of these things are implicated in the process. And furthermore, as you mentioned, because religion is such a broad topic, it says, is religion useful? In which religion? There's thousands of religion, maybe more. It depends on how people define religion, right? But which religion are we talking about? And that's going to inevitably mean, if we take it literally, that Alex will always win this debate. Because even if Ben Shapiro proves that Judeo-Christian system is superior to all secular systems, he can't sustain the thesis of the debate, which is religion useful, or should religion be? Because Alex would say you didn't prove that, right? And maybe he has the burden of proof and Alex doesn't. Alex just has to show some holes in it. Alex might have a burden when he makes assertions, but let's say he fails all the burden and shows that atheism is false or whatever. Atheism is false. Atheism can't support certain forms of morality, and only Judeo-Christian beliefs are true, and furthermore, it can support that morality. It still doesn't sustain and hold up to the main title, which is religion, because that's broader than Judeo-Christian notions. In which case, it's a very weirdly worded thing. Maybe I'm looking at it too literally, because maybe Ben will say, if I've proven the case for Judeo-Christian morality, that's enough. It simply means, by definition, all other religions are false. Therefore, religion is useful, because the only one true religion is, you can get around it. But I'm being too debate literal here, maybe a bit too hyper in my definitions that are strict. But as you mentioned, the question that we've posed to the general public is, what is a religion? I'll quickly expand why this is a difficult question to answer, because the definition of religion is actually kind of vague and ambiguous. If you know the writer, the historian, the Yuval Noah Harari, has in his book *Sapien*, has classified even he says human beings create these useful fictions called religions, and he under it. This is what made me realize this. Under it, he classified past religions, such as theistic ones, Judeo-Christian ones, Judaism, Islam. He categorized those ones alongside modern religions, and he called human rights-centered religions to be modern religions. He said they are all useful fictions. They are all inventions of the mind. They are all intersubjective creations. They don't exist in the world. They exist due to the human imagination. We have created them. That's what made me realize, because my initial instinct was to say, no, wait a minute. Human rights is different to a religion. Human rights, or the subscription to a system like a legal order or a set of conventions or a set of books that propose human rights, is different to any religious sort of system. It's not the same. Then I thought, wait a minute, why? What is the definition of religion? And that's what made me think, wait a minute, because every single thing that you can put into the ingredients of the definition of religion may allow certain counterintuitive results, such as implicating a system predicated on human rights as a religion as well. In which case, we are feeling like as though we shouldn't be calling it a religion, but wait a minute, is it a religion? So what is a religion? So I would ask people then to define religion and then explain why humanistic ideologies like humanism is not a religion. And maybe you find it's kind of fun, because I have my own ideas how to get around it and do it, but it's difficult. And maybe you guys can help do it, help ourselves figure it out as well. Yeah.
All right, Callie.
I just say something very to the point, which is that, as Martin pointed out, the topic of the debate, which is religion good for society? I think, ironically, that would require Ben to even defend Islam and everything that Islam, every rule in Islam that exists. Ben has to defend that and explain how that is good for society. So I think from the get-go, the topic isn't something that Ben can actually defend against. As Madan mentioned, maybe we are just taking that topic a bit too in a general way. If he
I
by
think
religion he only,
topic is wrongly worded, probably, right?
yeah,
In a sense, in a sense, kind of.
yeah, maybe if that is the case, then again we can mention that maybe
Maybe we can
sometimes
think of it like this. Maybe if there was a
sometimes
question,
that,
maybe we can think of it like this. Maybe if the question was, is politics good for society? Yeah, and you show that politics is good for society, and do you need to defend every single type of political system? No, you just need to show that certain political systems is good for society. Maybe that's how you have to look at it. Maybe that's all you have to do to show that there is a place for politics. Is there a place for all sorts of politics? No, but there's a place for some sorts of politics. Maybe that's how you need to look at it. I don't know. That's my suggestion.
Right,
Maybe.
right, probably, right. I think we can grant that much to Ben, by the way. Yeah.
but then what you're actually saying is, in a way, that the concept of politics, the benefits, its benefits actually outweigh its everything negative that probably, or every negative idea that exists in politics. Maybe, but yeah, maybe you're right. We can think about it a bit more.
No, What I mean is the concept of, maybe let's say you, in order to defend that politics is a good thing, you show that politics in a democratic system is very good. Politics in every other system is bad. Maybe that's all you have to do, and that. Now, in that situation, you've not defended the general claim politics is good, because in every other system, politics is bad, apart from this one system that you've proven it's good. But that's all you have to do. All you have to do is show and even tacitly agree that yes, politics in all these other systems is bad, but this form of politics is good. Therefore, politics is good. Maybe the person is flipping it on the other person, that in order to show politics is bad, you have to show that every single sort of political system is bad. If I can show you one example of a political system that is good, and politics in that system leads to a greater good, then the fact that there are other systems where politics is bad doesn't refute me, or doesn't refute me. I've proven to you that politics is good in certain circumstances. Maybe that's something like that. Maybe, I don't know, something like that could work.
I mean, in that case, again, it would be better to have a very specific topic, and not just politics is good. Politics given this certain scenario is good. That would be the topic. that would be more relevant.
Well,
But yeah,
But
that's
Gary,
what
I think they intentionally kept it broad so that they can talk about lots of things. They don't want to limit it
maybe
to
yeah.
like, is Judeo-Christian religions good? They just want to talk, is religion good? So that Ben could make that concession that some religions are bad, but mine is good. And then we accept, indeed, the question was too broad, but the whole point was to get them to talk about it. You get it like that in a nuanced way.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Maybe that's it. Fair enough.
All right. Yes, I think it has been a fascinating review. I think, Madden, feedback. All right. It has been a fascinating review so far. We had exchanged quite a few ideas. I think it was a pretty good conversation from both the sides, from Ben's side as well as from Alex's side. And this is how I think conversations should be. So far, whoever is listening to this review, I would request sincerely to leave a comment. There are 2 questions running on the stream right now on the banner. Read them and let us know what you think of those questions. Whatever your take is, just post your opinion on it, basically. And this is for this. This is the same for those who are gonna listen to it later on as well. Just leave a comment, right? What that's gonna do is to motivate us to at least exchange ideas with you as our audience, and also it's probably gonna prop up our videos for more and more viewers, and so that we can get more and more subscribers, right? And that's gonna be good because that's gonna keep us motivated, as I said. So like, subscribe, and share, and ciao for now. All right. Thanks, Mahadin. Thanks, Kelly, and thanks anybody who joined Cosmic, especially, and Vakas as well. So thank you all. Good night. Bye bye.